I'm Davey Allison.
Davey Allison at work in his car. Earnhardt first. Here comes Davey Allison to the inside. And you can hear the roar of the crowd over the thunder of the motors as they come to the line. Morgan comes to the inside, and Davey Allison is going to win the Daytona 500. He's past the finish line.
Trouble down the straightaway. Allison's car begins to flip and barrel rolls. One, twice, three, four times. Comes over the inside retaining wall.
He has Velcro on his glove. He's wearing a full cast. He's got Velcro on the steering wheel and on the gear shift knob to aid him in getting around this racetrack.
This is one beat-up young man. Everything's happened to him in 1992.
When I see a little kid out there that looks up at us and says, I want to be like Davey Allison, I want to make sure that I can be a good example for those people.
Davey Allison became one of the most respected NASCAR drivers through his skill and unbreakable toughness. The son of a legend, Davey was exposed to racing from the moment he was born and reached the top of the sport with unwavering determination. His father, Bobby Allison, made his NASCAR Grand National debut on February 24, 1961. It was the Daytona 500 qualifying race. After finishing 20th, Bobby was told that his wife Judy had gone to the hospital to deliver their first child. He raced back to their home in Hollywood, Florida. Davey Allison was born on Saturday, February 25th at 4:37 p.m. The next day, Bobby went back to Daytona and finished 31st in the 500, earning $200. To make a living as a race car driver, you need to race a lot, and South Florida didn't have enough tracks. In the mid-1960s, Bobby moved the family to Hueytown, Alabama, where he could race several times a week. Bobby Allison won NASCAR's Modified Championship in 1964 and 65. In 1966, he made the jump to the Cup Series. At home, he now had 4 children, and his oldest son, Davey, was obsessed with race cars.
Even in school, the teachers had trouble with him, doing his math like in 2nd grade, and I went and had a talk with the teacher, and I told her, I said, well, instead of using the apples up there as an illustration, use race cars and you'll get his attention. Well, she did, and sure enough, she got his attention.
Throughout the 60s and 70s, a legendary status surrounded a core group of drivers from Alabama. They would travel to short tracks across the country and win races. 4 racers: Bobby Allison, his brother Donnie Allison, Red Farmer, and Neil Bonnet. They were the Alabama Gang.
I was already living here in Hueytown. I was working as a pipe fitter and I was racing on the weekends. Then comes Bobby Allison, takes me under his wing, and we all went racing together. The Alabama Gang. Me, Bobby, Donnie, and Red, all in a row.
We used to travel like gypsies. We'd pull out 3 of us in a row with a little pickup truck towing a trailer behind us, and we'd go to these different tracks, and we always used to pull in together.
Bobby Allison would roll in, you'd think that, God rolled in or something,
When I was a kid, looking at the Alabama Gang, I looked with, starstruck eyes at Red Farmer, my dad, Neil Bonnet, my Uncle Donnie. And I always thought, it really would be neat to be a part of the Alabama Gang, and hopefully someday I'll get to race against those guys and be able to beat them eventually.
By the early 70s, Bobby established himself as one of the best drivers in all of auto racing. Between 1971 and 73, he won 22 Cup races and was voted NASCAR's most popular driver 3 years in a row. Bobby ran the Indy 500 in 1973 for Roger Penske, who then hired him to race in the Cup Series in 75. That continued for 2 years until Bobby quit and fielded his own cars. But 1977 was the worst year of Bobby's career. He was the last team entering AMC Matadors, building them in the garage behind his house. He led only 102 laps in these cars and went winless in 1977. But it was also a year in which his 16-year-old son Davey learned what it was truly like to work on race cars.
I had been telling my dad and my mom all along that I wanted to be a race car driver. That was my goal. That's what I wanted to be. And when I turned 16, I told my dad again that I wanted to be a race car driver. And he was sitting at this location in the shop looking out this window, and he said, "There's the shop, there's the equipment, you better get busy."
Well, he went through a period where it was just about all talk. But then as he got toward the end of high school, I guess his junior year of high school, I had the Matador and ended up working down there in the engine shop every night, real late and all. And he began to spend a lot of time down there with me. And one night we were down there working, and sometimes he worked pretty late, you know, quit in time to get a shower and go to school, which was maybe pretty tough on a youngster like that. But one night he said, "Dad, let me bolt the thing together, and you watch and just make sure that I don't do something wrong, but let me do the work."
After about a week, he saw that I was serious, and my grades had started tapering off, and my attention towards school was really going away. He says, "Look," he says, "I know you want to be a race car driver. I see that you're serious about it, but your mom and I have talked, and we feel like you need to finish school first. So your requirement is to graduate, not get a GED diploma, to graduate from high school." And that's all I had to hear. But I got thinking, I said, I'll go to summer school and get ahead and graduate early. That's what I did.
In 1978, Bobby went to drive for Bud Moore and won 5 races, including his first Daytona 500. In 1979, it was Davey's turn to race. When Davey made his debut at Birmingham International Raceway on April 20th, it was said that the track attracted its largest crowd in 4 years. Thousands were eager to see the debut of Bobby Allison's son. On May 5th, Davey won his first feature race at Birmingham. The next day, Bobby won at Talladega. The 18-year-old soon earned the respect of Alabama racers, including a 20-year-old Larry McReynolds.
When Davey first come along, I really thought he was just Bobby Allison's son that was trying to be a race car driver, I mean, he was peeling the fence down pretty regular at Birmingham. But the thing that I did admire about him was he'd peel that fence down, he'd go back to Hueytown and work night and day the next week and piece it back together and come back and give it his all again. And it's like finally all of a sudden, rather than peeling the fence down or going through the grandstands, all of a sudden, wow, Davey won, and it's like he won again. And then all of a sudden, I realized that he wasn't just Bobby Allison's son trying to follow in his dad's footsteps. He was Davey Allison that was probably going to be a pretty good race car driver.
Davey traveled around the Southeast running late model races with a crew just as young as he was.
Peach Fuzz gang was kind of dubbed on me by my dad, or on us by my dad, because the oldest one in the group was Randy Hill. He was 19 years old. I was 19 years old, and none of us were shaven. When we traveled around in the early 1980s as the Peach Fuzz gang, that to me will always be, a tremendous bunch of memories, because there was a group of kids that traveled around all over the Southeast running some all-pro races. We went and ran a couple of ARCA races, and people would watch us roll into the racetrack and they would just laugh. It was like a comedy show until the race started, and then it wasn't a comedy anymore. It was for real. And when we leave there, everybody joke about it being the Peach Fuzz gang, but they say, those guys come here to race.
Davey took over the AMC Matador that Bobby raced in 1977 and entered it in several ARCA races, gaining experience on the big tracks. After a few years of racing NASCAR's All-Pro Series and part-time in ARCA, Davey won his first ARCA race at Talladega in April 1983. His engine that day was built by Robert Yates, who also built engines for Bobby's Cup team. He won again when they returned in July.
Well, Davey, congratulations. 2 in a row here at Talladega.
Thank you, Ned. Yeah, we've had pretty good luck this year. Last year we finished 3rd, and come here this year and won the first one, the ARCA 500, and then now the ARCA 200. So our luck's picking up some.
You seem to like the high-speed racetracks.
Yeah, I've had really good success on the high-speed racetracks. I've had a good teacher on how to set the cars up for the super speedways, and you know, this time it was all me. I asked him for some advice, and he told me what he thought, and you know, this time I got to set the chassis up myself, though.
And when you say he, of course, you're talking about your dad. How much input does he have in your racing career?
Well, right now he owns the short track cars I drive, and he's been a real strong advisor. You know, he's helped me out quite a bit with all of the racing I've done, especially the super speedway racing.
Are you using what you're doing now as a stepping stone to one day getting into Winston Cup racing?
Definitely am. That's definitely my goal from now on. I want to go Grand National, but I'll take my time and wait for the right opportunity to come along. And when it does, then I'll be driving out there with the big guys.
And the leader of the Alabama gang shares his victory lane with Bill Elliott here at Riverside, California in the final race of '83. Elliott won the race, but finishing ninth was enough to earn Bobby Allison his first Winston Cup driving championship. One of the closest finishes in history, just 47 points behind Allison was Darrell Waltrip. But what a day for Bobby Allison.
In early 1984, Davey got engaged to be married. His new bride was Deborah Headley, also from Hueytown. From the beginning of the year, they planned to take a week off from racing for a honeymoon. And that year, Davey chased the ARCA championship.
Now let's go back to Daytona and check some more of the racetrack action. Davey Allison, son of the Grand National champion. He's leading last week's ARCA 200 on Sunday, picking up some super speedway experience over the black number 6 of Rick Wilson. Well, that lasted a while, but then it went wrong. Allison had a tire going down, spun up in turn number 4, and that was all for Davey as he ended up a lap down at the end of the race. It opened the door for Wilson, who came roaring home with a virtually uncontested victory. Meanwhile, Davey Allison had better luck at Atlanta than did his father. While Bobby struggled in the Grand National race, Davey was still celebrating Saturday's victory in the Automobile Racing Club of America 150-miler at AIR.
Davey and Deborah married on Friday, August 3rd, and as planned, left for a honeymoon cruise in the Caribbean. Allison was the championship leader by 215 points over Bob Dotter, entering the August 11th race at Flat Rock, Michigan. Allison was determined to make the race and preserve his championship lead, even if it meant a mad rush from the Caribbean. The cruise docked in Barbados on Saturday morning, and Davey rushed to the airport. Several flights were needed to make it to Flat Rock, Michigan. The car was at the track, but Davey didn't make it in time for the race. In the next 2 races, he crashed at the Springfield Dirt Mile and lost a rear end at DuQuoin. His points lead was gone.
Elsewhere, the ARCA Stock Car Championship decided Sunday at Middle Georgia Speedway.
The DeMarco mercenaries here. The young one is Davey Allison. The mature one, Bob Dotter, talking things over with Bill Venturini. Two-time champ Dotter, Orange 83, in a position to be conservative, but finds the lead comes easy from Venturini at the start. Dotter stays out front, and Davey Allison stays on his own pace. Soon after, the top 3 in points discover they don't have far to look to find each other. Kentucky's Jack Cornett and Ohio's Bobby Jacks combine to almost take out Davey. They'll all race on. As Davey orbits around, suddenly the points leader is dead in the water. Dotter has a broken axle. But after a 27-lap fix, he's back. Without the repairs, he would have lost the championship.
Bob Dotter, the one-armed racer from Chicago, had trouble, but clinched his 3rd straight title.
As the saying goes, the veteran Dotter won the war as Davey wins the battle, backing out of the throttle on the final turn. Difference between 1st and 2nd in points, a honeymoon. He missed a race, and it cost him 100 bonus tallies. That's Mrs. Davey in Victory Circle. Sure looks like Davey may have still gotten the best of the deal, doesn't it?
Allison missed the 1984 ARCA championship by 25 points. Coming up through the ranks, Davey never won a championship as he competed in a variety of series. This had been his closest yet. Years later, he reflected on this moment, saying, "It'd still be nice to be able to say I won a championship."
Shaking off the death of a fellow driver a few days before, 39 drivers from the Automobile Racing Club of America took to the 2.5-mile Daytona International Speedway for the running of the ARCA 200. Ken Reagan was on the pole after qualifying at more than 195 miles per hour. Caution was on the speedway on lap 5 when Bill Venturini hit the wall in turn 4. The Chevrolet, formerly driven by Cale Yarborough on the Grand National Circuit, sustained heavy damage and Venturini was out of it. On the track, Glenn Sears was at the head of the pack but was having his hands full with Davey Allison and Red Farmer. Allison and Farmer had bumped earlier in the race, and the clincher came on the final lap when Farmer got a little out of shape and got into Allison again before getting it back under control. The incident ensured Sears' win in the event.
Davey attempted to qualify for his first Daytona 500 in 1985, driving for Ken Reagan in the same car Ken won the pole with for the ARCA race. Clutch problems in the qualifying race produced a last-place finish and kept Davey out of the 500.
Over $82,000, the highest posted awards total in ARCA history, was up for grabs Saturday in the Permatex 500-kilometer race at Talladega. This high-speed contest on the high banks began routinely, but will involve another serious driver injury before it's over. Davey Allison, number 23, and Ken Reagan, number 17, provided most of the good early racing action until the yellow came out when Eldon Dotson encountered the wall. Although the race had several leaders, including Billy Harvey, it was evident that it would eventually come down to a Reagan-Allison duel. Late in the race now, Reagan leads with Davey second. Suddenly, Reagan is nearly head-on into the second turn wall. The preliminary medical report, critical condition with a broken neck. But by midweek, his condition is upgraded to good with no paralysis. Davey Allison goes on to win and break Buddy Baker's record of consecutive wins at Talladega.
In June of '85, a new event was held at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, a 500-kilometer ARCA race. This would mark one of 4 ARCA races at the track during the '85 season, but also the most prestigious, with this winner getting over $30,000 in prizes, 4 times the amount for winning at Daytona that year. NASCAR founder Bill France Sr. was the Grand Marshal. With the Winston Cup Series racing at Riverside that day, it was the first superspeedway race Davey ran without Bobby in the pits.
A couple of the Grand National drivers didn't go to Riverside, and one of them ended up here on the pole in the inaugural Georgia 500K at Atlanta International Raceway. Pole sitter Mike Alexander in car number 84 and fellow NASCAR regular Trevor Boyce in number 8 set the pace in this caution-filled race. Blown engines, spins, and crashes brought out 8 cautions, slowing 73 of the race's 204 laps.
Making his second ARCA start was Stuart Linden, a driver from New Zealand. Linden was driving a yellow and white Ford Thunderbird, previously raced by Kyle Petty in 1984. On lap 32, Linden spun exiting turn 2 and headed straight for the inside wall. Unlike other tracks, Atlanta's inside wall was made of dirt instead of concrete and stopped cars immediately with great force. In the Cup race 8 months earlier, Terry Schoonover died when he hit the unforgiving wall. Far away from home, Linden too lost his life. The car slammed the wall with such high force that the roll cage broke. The driver was thrown through the windshield. Allison said of the accident, "It was the worst wreck I've ever seen. When I went by him, he was laying half out of the car and on the engine. After that, I didn't look again. He hit so hard that part of the frame was still embedded in that bank. I called my pits and told them to not let the girls look at the car when they brought it in. That's how bad it was." Despite what he saw, Davey had to keep going. There were still 170 laps remaining.
On the 32nd lap, Stuart Linden, a native of New Zealand, was killed when his car crashed into a dirt embankment in turn 2. It was only his second super speedway race.
The late stages looked like it would be a Boyce and Alexander battle to the end, but in the final 8 laps, Boyce blew an engine and Alexander pitted under yellow, leaving the persistent number 23, Davey Allison, in the driver's seat.
I saw the caution lights on board. I just kept the hammer down to catch up. I caught up, and I looked down on pit road, and they're hollering, "The leader's on pit road, the leader's on pit road," and I knew that we only had 2 laps to go, and when we got the restart, it was going to be the white and the checker, and I knew there wasn't no way he was going to catch me.
Allison's victory moves him within 45 points of 4th-place finisher and ARCA points leader Lee Raymond. Davey Allison's hot victory ended with a cool ride home in his new boat.
It was Allison's richest win of his career so far. He won $34,000. Over $20,000 of that was the bass boat. Davey's run for the ARCA championship was derailed in July when Bobby quit his team at Dygaard Racing and was forced to enter cup races using Davey's ARCA cars.
Gentlemen, normally Davey Allison at this point in time would be suiting up in his Miller American fire suit and getting ready to do battle with the ARCA group, but instead he's helping out his father, Bobby, prepare for tomorrow's 500-miler here at Pocono. Davey, your dad took the car keys away from your race car. He needs it tomorrow, so now you're on the pit crew.
Yeah, with all the latest developments, Jackie, we've decided that this car would be the best to run the Grand National race for Dad, so we just turned it over to him and got it ready for this race, and we're going to do the best we can in the Grand National race, and unfortunately that means missing the ARCA race today.
Well, Bobby Allison, I know all fathers have always tried to have that opportunity to ground their son, but I've never seen it done in racing before.
Well, I'll tell you, and it's an opportunity that we had to take, but I wish we could have avoided. I'd like to see Davey running the race today, but like he said, the other ARCA car that we have is prepared for him for Talladega, and we really didn't have an alternative, and plus we had an awful lot of work for everyone to do.
Well, we'll get to see Bobby Allison tomorrow, and Davey Allison as well, because he'll change the right front tire for Bobby Allison, his dad.
Bobby Allison is under considerable additional pressure today because his son Davey is going to take his first Grand National ride in the Haas-Ellington car. We'll be watching him carefully today. Car number 1 will be young Davey Allison out of Hueytown, Alabama. Row 11 is Harry Gant, and then Davey Allison makes his first Grand National appearance on the outside of row 11.
In his Winston Cup debut, Davey finished in 10th place. He concluded the 1985 season by again finishing 3rd in ARCA points and running 2 additional Cup races. Davey entered 1986 with a deal to drive for the Sadler Brothers team, with part-time schedules in Winston Cup and Busch Grand National.
Oh, big spin at turn 3.
Car number 95 is Davey Allison. Davey had whipped that ball a little bit earlier, came in and repaired the damage during the caution, but now the Sadler automobile number 95 against the wall, young Davey Allison, attempting to run his first Daytona 500.
Oh. He didn't like it, eh?
Can't say there's no blaming.
Wonder, there's 95, Davey Allison. We just mentioned having a tremendous day out. He started right alongside Richard Petty, and he has just driven magnificently today.
Bobby's son, Davey Allison, who races a variety of late models, delayed the proceedings a bit with this slide.
Brett Bodine may have finished higher had it not been for this incident late with Davey Allison.
Son of a race car driver has more of an opportunity to learn at an earlier age and to get some experience under his belt at a time when they need it the most, when they can learn the easiest. And I think that was probably my biggest advantage, working in the shop from the time I was a little kid and being around to listen to what was said and letting it store in my memory bank.
They head up over the tunnel. Alongside Waltrip, that is Morgan Shepherd, and they'll go into... Oh, Shepherd is loose. Earnhardt tags him, and Shepherd goes into the wall. Benny Parsons spins to the infield, and Shepherd took at least one car with him. Neil Bonnet's car goes up on its left side, along with Bobby Hillen. There's Bonnet getting out of his car as Parsons pulls away. And Neil Bonnet collapses beside his car. He has fallen to the ground. He is laying there beside the car, prone on the ground, and the safety crews have been dispatched.
Last week at Pocono, Pennsylvania, slammed the retainer 160 miles per hour, broke 3 ribs, punctured a lung, broke his shoulder blade, and so he's out of the race, and he's with us today. I'm delighted to have another member of the Alabama gang, Neil Bonnet, along. Davey Allison's taking over for you, and this is sort of like deja vu. It was a few years ago when Bobby Allison crashed severely up in Minnesota, and you took over for him.
Yeah, I qualified Bobby's car at Nashville, was able to run the race, and I got injured last week. Thank goodness Davey's in there now, and he's doing a heck of a job. Hope he has a good race today.
Well, I'm just going to go out and do the best I can do, and I'm looking for a ride for next year, and I know Junior's looking for a driver, so maybe I'll be one of the candidates after today.
Harold
Winder. Flag in hand. Sends them on their way. Petty on the outside, Earnhardt on the inside. Allison drops down a groove. He looks to the inside as they come off that 33-degree banking. Here they come 3 wide, and also mixing it up, Davey Allison for the lead. Davey Allison, bottom 3 wide. Look at this. Davey Allison from Hueytown, Alabama, is leading the Talladega 500. His dad, Bobby Allison, in second. Davey Allison out in front, his dad right with him. That has to be something very meaningful to Bobby Allison to go tearing into the banking of this old Talladega track here in Alabama. The Alabama gang runs 1 and 2, and he pulls up on his young son and guns him down.
That shows you how meaning it is, right there. How meaningful as it can be.
Davey Allison in first, Bobby Hillin in second. Davey Allison in first. Here's Bobby Hillin coming to the inside. Getting down toward a finish. White flag, a persistent doesn't come down the line. Hillin first, Wallace second, then they're 3 wide for third position. Allison trying, Allison gets turned sideways by Sterling Marlin. He slams into them. 4-car wreck at the finish to the tri-oval. Here they come for the line. Hillin wins it.
Davey was lucky to get through. Two more cars right with him there.
Davey's 7th place finish impressed another team that was looking for a driver. In the summer, Cale Yarborough announced he would leave the Harry Ranier team at the end of the year to start his own team. In a part-time schedule, Yarborough had won 9 races in 4 years. This opened up a strong ride, and the team set their sights on Davey.
We had 2 names on the table, Rusty Wallace and Davey Allison. And naturally, Rusty had more experience, and he had a sponsor, Aluguard, I believe, and we talked to the sponsor people, and it really wasn't enough money to do the program like, Harry Ranier wanted to do it. And Harry said, listen, how about Davey, I said, well, how about a sponsor? Because it's tough racing without a sponsor. And he said, we'll get a sponsor. I've got faith in you. I said, well, it's awful tough, but I remember that boy can drive a race car. And certainly after that, he had driven Junior's car and Hoss Ellington's car real well. So I said, well, we'll do it.
Davey was set to become one of the most prepared drivers to ever enter the Cup Series.
I guess being around, being Bobby Allison's son as far as genetics are concerned, I don't think that has a lot to do with it, other than maybe I've picked up his desires. The being around and learning from him and learning from guys like Red and Donnie and Neil, I think my knowledge and my experience was at a higher level starting off than most other people's would have been that didn't have that kind of influence.
And here is Davey Allison. It was a bit of a surprise, although he had turned in the fastest practice lap at Daytona earlier in the month. But Davey is on the track right now for his 1 lap of qualifying.
Bob, what is substantiated is those practice speeds, those astronomical practice speeds that Allison had turned in not only here, but also at Talladega. He is for real.
Pop and Mom Allison have come here to cheer for their son Bobby, who's going to start this race a remarkable 23rd year in a row. But this year, they'll cheer for somebody else. Bobby's son Davey will make history this afternoon, the first rookie ever to start this race from the front row. The rest of the family team here includes cousins and brothers and sisters and wives and Uncle Donnie down there, who almost won this race a couple of times. On Thursday, Davey showed us what he's made of. He went out onto the racetrack and saved his car from a terrible potential spin. Could have been a disaster, but he brought it back in one piece to put it on the outside of row 1. The question, young man, are you ready to go out there and run with the big guys?
Well, Dave, we've been working real hard in practice this week, and the car's working real good now, and I think we're ready for the race.
Good luck today. Perhaps the proudest member of this family must be Bobby's wife, Davey's mother, Judy Allison. Only one man can win this race. Two men in your life are going to try to do it. Who do you pull for down at the bottom of your heart?
The one that pays the bills.
The one that pays the bills. It is a proud moment here in the Florida sunshine for Stock Car Racing's Allison family.
Davey Allison's car number 28, which is being pushed in, lost the right rear tire, indicative that they just didn't get it bolted on. Lug nuts weren't there.
We've got the most experienced drivers in the field. Richard Petty with 200 victories, and we've got one guy in the field that's run virtually no races at all. And here's the pole car, a brand new automobile with a rookie driver with a brand new team. How do you feel having 41 of the fastest cars in the world right behind you?
Well, I feel awful comfortable knowing that I'm at the front of the pack right now.
Darlington and March produced a scary moment for the Allison family when Davey and Bobby were involved in a violent crash.
And a car spinning. Yarborough with nowhere to go. Can he get through? No, there's debris. He did not make any significant contact. Somebody losing control, fire breaking out. And right now, unable to tell who it was. We see a helmet getting out. Is that perhaps Davey Allison involved in that?
Davey's car jumped over the inside wall and immediately caught fire. Bobby quickly ran to his son's aid. Davey got out of the car unhurt.
It's race day at Talladega. The Winston 500 Winston Cup race is about to go under partly sunny skies.
8 drivers exceeded 210 miles per hour. That also constitutes 8 of the 10 fastest laps of qualifying ever in the long history of NASCAR stock car racing.
Jerry, this is the racetrack where the unexpected happens. You never quite know what's going to go down here at Talladega. This is a racetrack where a rookie can quickly become a superstar. Most of the field has qualified at over 200 miles an hour. The leaders will race this afternoon in speeds in excess of 200 miles an hour.
Bill Elliott has grabbed the lead. Bobby Allison, who started second, is dropping back quickly. Allison will lead them, rather Davey Allison will jump into second position and chase Bill Elliott down the backstretch. Oh, we have a problem. Bobby Allison with a horrible crash here on the front stretch. It has torn out a complete section of protective railing separating it. Alan Kowicki becomes involved.
Debris and is collecting other cars. There was a lot of debris on the front stretch. Kowicki was involved. Richard Petty, I think.
He called me, he says, Joey, my daddy's just died. I've seen it in the rearview mirror. He says, the whole lap. I said, look, you don't know that. It's bad, but just come on back around here and stop and get out. So I'm taking off running down there. He said, Joey, there's no way he can make it. And all he did was scream and holler and cry all the way back around there. And
I was totally scared that the worst had happened. I watched it happen in the rearview mirror, and I knew it was going to come back down in front of a pack of cars that was moving very fast, and I just didn't see any way that they could all miss him. And fortunately, they did, for the most part. That next lap, it probably only took 45 or 50 seconds to get around the racetrack that lap, but it seemed like it took an eternity. And as I came back around, my dad was climbing out of the car, and he waved to me to let me know that he was okay. And that was just tremendous relief. I was in shock, first of all. I didn't believe that he could make it through, and then I was in shock to see him climbing out of the car on his own, and tremendously relieved.
The Winston 500 is green once again, and the race resumes. Allison right on the rear bumper of Dale Earnhardt off the second corner, down the flat backstretch at Talladega. Allison makes the move to the inside. He's got him. Allison goes into the lead. He's a few feet away from the checkered flag. There it is. Davey Allison wins.
get the first win, it was awesome. It probably didn't even sink in for a couple of days, but when we left there and went home that night, it was 10 o'clock before I got home after going through all the post-race interviews and the race being delayed for 2 hours and 45 minutes. And driving all the way home is like I kept having to force myself to drive the speed limit because I was wanting to hurry up, get back home, and celebrate that win with my family and to be there with my parents, because my dad was pretty excited in victory lane too, and he was a big part of the reason why I was there.
Into turn number 3, drops down low, finds that middle groove between 3 and 4. He'll nip the line coming off number 4, lets the car drift high uphill, and Davey Allison takes the checkered flag. And Davey Allison has career win number 2 in just 16 starts. An incredible story.
They kept it all together for me today, and I'm telling you what, I'm on cloud 9 again.
Davey Allison does not even look tired here in victory lane. Bobby Allison, you must be proud of this guy.
Well, I really am. He did a great job, I'll tell you that. Just all day long, just drove the wheels off of that old Ford and did a great job.
Okay, Bobby Allison just showed up here to give his son congratulations. If Bobby can't win, at least another Allison did.
Well, I'm really proud of him. I'm very pleased with his season this year. And also very, very pleased with the help that he's gotten from Rainier and Lundy and Haviland and the whole crew. You know, the whole team has been part of his effort this year, and I'm very proud of all of it.
1987 has been a record-setting year for a rookie from Alabama with a familiar name, Allison. But after Earnhardt's win streak ended at Talladega in early May, young Davey was there to pick up the baton. Despite witnessing his dad's devastating crash, Davey won his first Winston Cup event. Then he became the first rookie in history to win a second Winston Cup race at Dover. Despite the 2 wins and 2 poles already, Davey is not in the points battle. He runs only super speedway races, but his short track program may begin soon.
What we want to do is build a short track car sometime this summer and start testing it and get ready for 1988 so that when we go to Richmond at the first of the season next year, we'll be ready for it. And my feelings on that are the best place to test a car is in a race, so we may end up running in the fall.
As I'm sure everyone in this room tonight knows, Davey Allison of Hueytown, Alabama, is this year's Champion Series Rookie of the Year.
Well, I'd just like to say that 1987 has been an outstanding year for our Rainier Lundy racing team. It's a year that I've looked forward to for a long time. I've got a lot of people that I'd like to say thank you to, and I know there's no way I can cover all the bases. But I have to say that Deborah supported me this year throughout our marriage for the past 3 years, and I owe her a lot of credit for standing by me in the times were rough. And I owe a lot of credit to my dad, too, for paving the way for me more or less, giving me a shop to operate in and his knowledge to learn from. But I'd like to say thank you to NASCAR, too, for giving us the greatest racing organization in the world to race on this circuit, the Winston Cup circuit. I know this is something that a lot of drivers look forward to, and I'd like to congratulate Dale Earnhardt on a great year, too. And his title that he's holding now is one that every driver on the circuit looks forward to and every driver in the world looks up to. That's something that we want to accomplish in the future. And I'd like to say thanks again to everybody.
Last year, the big surprise of the Daytona 500 was Davey Allison, the rookie kid sitting on the outside of row 1. You know what? He's right back there again this year. What's different about Daytona 1988?
Well, our whole team is a year wiser now, Dave, and we're really glad that we came back and sat on the outside pole again this year, especially with the new restrictor rule. But I guess the biggest difference is that we just have that extra year of experience under us now.
Well, there's been a late development. Davey Allison, the front row starter, in the last few minutes of practice yesterday after the Goodies 300, hit the wall and damaged the right side of his Ford Thunderbird. They worked on the car all night to make it right, but they'll not know how it handles until the green flag drops.
Yeah, he damaged the car pretty badly, actually, Bob. The frame was bent a full inch, and they had to take the suspension components off their backup car and put them all on the race car. So when the green flag drops today, Davey Allison will be in what is effectively a brand new race car, 0 laps on it.
Boy, I sure like the Alabama gang, and if he can keep his wheels on this year, I'll go with Davey Allison.
I think Beth's close. I think Davey's dad.
I like Bobby Allison. He's got momentum going for him. He's won 2 races here.
I think now we have us a very experienced fellow that's going to win the Daytona 500. And his name is Davey Allison.
You got it from the horse's mouth, ladies and gentlemen. The winner of the greatest stock car race in history will be Davey Allison.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
42 competitors, 42 cars, straining now, coming down at about 55, 60 miles an hour, and the green is unfurled. We're underway.
A nice start.
Right there in turn 2 is where Allison touched the wall yesterday.
But here comes Allison's first high-speed corner. With this carburetor plates, the cars really don't get up to speed till about 3/4 of a lap have gone by.
Allison to the inside. Bobby Allison scooting down low on the racetrack. The Allisons, father and son, leading the first lap of the Daytona 500. Davey Allison back in about 20th position, trying to make a move on the outside, and Barkdahl goes down to the bottom. Look at this, as Kyle Petty is overwhelmed inside and outside. Davey scoots up by. Boy, that's tight running. Earnhardt low, Baker high. And Baker senses that this could be his day to win the Daytona 500. And here's Allison dropping all the way down on the apron, wheeling through cars. One car, Eddie Bierswale, running very slowly, and they just snowplow over him.
And here comes Bobby Allison, 2 of the fastest cars we've seen during speed weeks here. Allison going to make a move for it.
The winner of the 125-mile qualifiers, Allison and Waltrip, go for it. And there's the view from Davey Allison of this battle for the Daytona 500.
Now he's down giving Dad a boost.
And Dad takes advantage of it. Gets out in front by about 4 feet. Waltrip comes back. But no, these 2 cars in the bottom of the track look like they're going to go home.
Well, Davey's the key right here as to who's going to lead this race. As to who he gets behind.
By staying behind his father, he pulls up. He goes to second. Dad goes out in front. Waltrip falls to third. Judy Allison looking on as her husband and her son battle it out in the $1.5 million Great American Race. Last lap. Davey Allison coming after his father. Looks down inside as they take it high in turn number 2. Back straight away, final time to decide it all here this afternoon.
Now, Davey, what are you going to do?
He's got less than half a lap to do it.
And they have enough lead. I believe this is going to be a battle between the father and son. I don't think anybody else can try it, but here he comes. He's going to do it.
To the bottom. He's down low. Bobby Allison high. Davey Allison trying the inside move. Bobby Allison holds him off. They come to the stripe, and the winner of the 30th annual Great American Race, Bobby Allison. Davey Allison, his son, in second. Judy Allison ecstatic. What a tremendous family performance.
Look at him, Bobby waving to Davey.
I went down low at turn 4, but he was too strong.
Did you hear Davey saying, I made a try for him at turn 4, but he was too strong.
Your sister watching at home, lying ill, your son right behind you and riding alongside on that victory lap. What could be better than this?
I'll tell you, that was great. And Davey did such a great job, especially after getting the car wrecked so bad yesterday at the end of practice. I got to give a lot of credit to the whole Rainier crew, and I'll tell you, Davey did a great job.
And so did you. Congratulations, Bobby Allison.
Now, you guys must have had a great chat after the Daytona 500. What did you talk about?
Well, we talked about it being a good race, and we did feel, both of us felt that my car was dominant. We knew Davey had a problem Saturday afternoon, and maybe his car might have been off just a tick. But it was a very pleasant conversation from my standpoint with a 1-2 finish.
Was it a big talk for you, Davey, when you had your chat with your dad after the race?
Well, you know, it was just a tremendously happy situation for both of us, even though that we didn't win the race, and that's what we were trying to do. And he won and we finished second. That's something that we can cherish from now on. You know, things started off really good in 1988, and we finished second. that day. Thought we would come out of the box really running good for the rest of the year, and we kind of fell on some tough times over there at Rainier Racing, and things went downhill instead of uphill. And then along came Father's Day in June, and that's when the accident of all time, as far as I'm concerned, took place.
I'm Pat Patterson, and let me say Happy Father's Day to everybody across the country as we get ready for NASCAR's best here in the Pocono Mountains, and the beautiful Pocono Mountains it is. The field is set, and we have a green flag. We are racing in the 7th annual Miller 500.
Bobby Allison on the initial lap radioed his crew chief, Jim Fennick, that he had cut a tire and would come in to change it. But tragedy intervened halfway around that 2.5-mile track. From an artist's rendering, there was no footage. On lap 1, Allison in car 12 had a tire going flat, causing the racer to spin in turn 2. Trailing Allison were Jimmy Means in car 52, Bob Chatt in car 16, and Giacomo in car 63. As Allison spun, Means and Chatt were able to avoid him. Usually, when a car spins on turn 2 at Pocono, it spins toward the infield, so Giacomo took his car high to avoid Allison. But Allison spun and then went across the track, bouncing off the outside retainer. It was at this point that Giacomo's car, at close to 130 miles per hour, crashed into the driver's side of Allison's car. The impact moved the driver's seat to the right side of the car.
Not a good Father's Day for Bobby's 4 children and the grandchildren.
Is standing by in the pits where Bobby Allison was transported from this accident that brought out the first caution flag.
Team spokesman for Stavola Brothers Racing, Benny Urgell, is with me. Benny, they brought Bobby into the track hospital. He appears to be conscious.
Well, he is conscious. What happened was when they got the green flag, Bobby had a left rear going down, and Pat Broyles told him that. When he got over the tunnel, the tire blew out, and he spun across race traffic, and Jocko got into him and kind of actually T-boned him. And it hurt him pretty bad, and they had to cut him out of the car. And he's conscious, but I can tell he's hurt. When they brought him out of this ambulance, he looks pretty beat up.
He appeared to be a hurt individual here today on Father's Day. Hopefully he'll be okay. We'll have an updated report in just a few moments.
Bobby's son, Davey, getting constant radio reports on his dad, soldiered on to finish 5th. T-bone crash caved in the driver's side roll cage at more than a foot and left Allison with a badly broken left leg. Internal injuries, including the jarring of his internal organs and a cerebral concussion, a head injury that keeps him on the critical list at Lehigh Valley Medical Center in Pennsylvania. The doctors are draining fluid from Allison's skull to relieve pressure caused by brain swelling. A spokesman at the hospital says the 50-year-old veteran of 33 racing seasons has increasingly frequent periods of consciousness and responds to family members who are urging him to, quote, keep on fighting. Now, Bobby's brother, Eddie Allison, says, and again we quote, he's not near death, but he is still critical. Any wrong moves, and we've still got trouble.
Last week was probably the most trying day of my life last Sunday, and it was very difficult to go on and finish that race. And I have to say that probably what kept me going is the fact that that's what my dad would want me to do. And that's again why I'm here this weekend. I have a job to do, and he'd want me to go out and do the best I can. We all chose our own ways of making a living. We know what the risks are. We know what the dangers are. We know what can happen at any time. but we can't live in a shell. We've got to go on with our lives and do what we enjoy, and this is what I enjoy doing, and I'm going to continue to do that to the best of my abilities. And with the help of Robert Yates and all the guys on our Haviland crew, I think that we can continue to do our best possible job. The doctors are reassuring my mom that it would do no damage whatsoever to turn the TV on and let him watch the race on Sunday. He opens his eyes, he looks around, he recognizes, we're pretty sure. Right now, he doesn't communicate in any way other than with hand signals by squeezing your hand, and he counts on his fingers when you ask him to. So doctors are pretty positive that he recognizes what's going on and that he's aware. So, and they think that it'll be good for him to hear familiar sounds, and that definitely is a familiar sound. It's what he loves. It's what he's always loved. And hopefully it won't be long before he's back doing it again.
That was the most traumatic thing that had ever happened to Davey. That was his best friend, his father. I mean, anytime he needed somebody, Bobby was there. Bobby was the leader. At that time, Davey saw in that hospital that night, or the doctor came and told Davey, he said, son, you better be prepared to be the leader of this family. And I think at that point, Davey grew by leaps and bounds. He went through a lot of struggles that year, had a lot of people standing behind him and by his side. But nobody really knew deep down inside what Davey Allison was going through. But that, to me, is probably where he grew more than any.
In addition to the stress of Bobby's injury, Davey's marriage was collapsing. After 4 years together, Davey and his wife Deborah divorced in the summer of 1988.
Here he comes. Davey Allison wins the Champion Spark Plug 400.
I just want to say two things. First, these guys deserve it. And second, I want to dedicate this race to my dad and all the working people that come out to support us.
At Somerville Speedway in late August, Davey met Liz Mason and began dating her soon after. His team was undergoing a big change as well. Davey's team owner Harry Rainier had decided to sell. Team manager and engine builder Robert Yates bought the team and signed Davey to a 3-year contract. The deal was completed in the fall.
A beautiful new racing facility opened Sunday in Richmond, Virginia, and one of the highlights of opening day was a telephone call for the man who won 5 times on the old oval.
Bobby?
Yes, how are we doing?
Good. And we all want to know how you are.
Well, I'm doing real good.
And Bobby had words for his fellow racers on pit road.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
After Bobby Allison spoke to the public for the first time since his Pocono crash, his son Davey responded by blowing away the Richmond field. Inspired by his father's words, Davey lapped all but 4 cars en route to his second 88 win.
Paul Sawyer's got a super facility here, and we're just tickled to death to be here in Victory Lane. This is another one for the old man, and with him starting the race off today, that was another big thrill for me, and I've just been on cloud 9 for 2 days.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Every time I hear those words, there is a special feeling that it just sends a surge throughout my body of I'm getting ready to go do my job. It's time to work, and I love what I do for a living, and that makes it all that much better. And I think a lot of times I'll think about and reflect on, right as I hear that, the time that I heard my dad say it over the telephone at Richmond, Virginia, and what that did for me that day. And I try to incorporate that a little bit as my own psychology to fuel that fire a little bit for the day.
Davey was he was pretty good as a brother. We had our competitions and we had our fights. I don't think anything was out of the ordinary, but he had things that he liked to do, and I had my things.
Davey's brother Clifford Allison was 3 years younger. The two were different in a lot of ways. Judy Allison, their mother, described Clifford as being charming enough to talk himself out of trouble, whereas Davey was headstrong and could talk himself into trouble. While Davey was driven from a young age to be a race car driver, Clifford wasn't as focused on what career to take. He married in his teens and had a daughter. He divorced quickly and raised his child as a single father with the help of his parents. In the early 80s, Clifford went to work for J.D. Stacy, servicing machinery in Kentucky coal mines. He soon returned to Alabama with a clearer focus and began racing short-track cars while working as a mechanic. He won the track championship at Montgomery International Raceway in 1987. In 1988, he was crew chief for Bobby's Busch Series car. After Bobby's accident, Clifford was a major help in his recovery, urging his father to get in the shop and give advice. In 1989, Clifford ran a handful of ARCA races while he tried to follow Davey up the racing ladder.
With the cautions, Moise found herself in the company of the Alabama gang. Defending race champion Mickey Gibbs in number 49, the 28 of Red Farmer, and Clifford Allison driving his dad's familiar number 12. But one by one, the Alabama gang was gone. Clifford took this spinning ride out of turn 4, slamming hard into the infield wall and sliding back up on the track in the midst of heavy traffic. After giving the crowd the OK sign, Clifford was sent to the hospital.
Robert on the back stretch. We're badly damaged, Robert. He's okay, Jeff. Come around, Davey. Man, I'm gonna tell you what, Jeff O'Dine just flat wrecked on the end.
What happened? He just run into me, hit me in the left rear and turned me around. Hit me right in the left ear and drove me right into the wall, and I ricocheted off the wall.
I want to talk to you. You can't talk? Hey, I'm saying about it, Davey. I want to say I'm sorry.
You impatient little
I made a mistake, Davey.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't do it on purpose.
We can't have that kind of mistake.
Well, you were using your mirror a lot, but that isn't why I did it.
I'm running in a straight line right behind the guy in front
That
of me,
don't matter.
Jeff.
I'm sorry. I did not do it on purpose.
If you ever let one person get away with pushing you around, then the rest of them are going to follow. They're going to say, he can be taken advantage of. And that's one person that we will take advantage of. And I don't want that to happen. I want people to know that whatever comes my way is coming back, and probably going to come back equally as hard or harder.
Battling for the lead, and a crash on the main straightaway as Davey Allison goes into the wall. And Mark Martin takes the lead. Davey Allison is out of the car and does not appear to be a happy person.
He wants to say hello. He wants to say something to Mark as he goes by. Yes, he got his point across. Now he'll go to the hospital and get checked over.
It could be that they'll just have to stay in line and finish this way. Here they come into the tri-oval.
The slow car will help. The slow car will help Davey Allison. Let's over, Davey. Get some air.
Let's watch. It's Davey Allison coming to the stripe. Terry Labonte right behind him. I don't think he's going to do it. No. Davey Allison wins the Winston 500 with Terry Labonte second. The win is going to be by Davey Allison. He crosses the stripe and wins. Davey Allison has pulled off the victory in the Pepsi 400.
Late summer was an example of how Davey balanced his work responsibilities with great personal growth. On Tuesday, August 29th, he did a Goodyear tire test at Richmond. On Wednesday, August 30th, Davey married Liz. With no time to rest, on Thursday, he was at Darlington, where he qualified 5th for the Busch Series race. On Christmas Eve, the couple's daughter Krista was born.
And you think racing's a handful? There you go, try that for a while.
She's a handful. She's a handful, but she's great.
flag is out. One more lap to go. Let's see what happens on the last lap. Again, it is Davey Allison.
Oh, Sterling Marlin
spins off of corner number 2. Sterling Marlin spins down the backstretch.
So it's a two-car race.
Here comes Mark Martin trying to make a move off of corner number 4. It's a drag race.
Wow.
I don't know. A photo finish. I think Davey Allison won, but I wouldn't say for sure.
I agree. I think he had him by about 3 or 4 inches, but I mean, you know.
Wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. Why are those guys jumping up and down, though? They don't know they won.
That had to be one of the closest, if not the closest finish in NASCAR Winston Cup history.
Martin on the inside. We back it up here and you see Mark Martin's car. Davey Allison right here. It's probably 12, maybe 10 inches at best, but Allison beats him across frame by frame advancing here. The video finish goes to Davey Allison.
Man, what a finish.
Down to the line, last lap, checkered flag getting ready to fall on Davey Allison, waving as he crosses the stripe. And the Robert Yates team with Davey Allison.
These guys have worked so hard. They deserve this. Jake and all the guys on the crew, man, they have just given me everything I've asked for. You know, we've had some tough times, but we've overcome them. Robert's the best car owner you could ever ask for. You know, I think he's probably a tie with my dad, but I haven't got to drive for my dad yet. That may happen one day, but right now, Robert's the best.
By the early 90s, the Alabama gang shifted to a new generation. Bobby was recovering. Donnie was retired. Neil had been seriously injured at Darlington in 1990. The shop behind Bobby's house now belonged to Davey, and Red Farmer was his crew chief for the Busch Series cars he built there.
You gotta take that ignition ground loose before you charge the battery. The ignition ground has to come off before you charge the battery.
We're right here in Hueytown, Alabama, where the Alabama gang originated. Directly behind me is Bobby Allison's home. Everything in Hueytown is concentrated right across the street, Mr. and Miss Allison's house. Here's a shop right now that's Bobby Allison's offices. He uses it for office area right now instead of race cars. Below us, that's where all the work went on, where all the cars were built and a lot of the racing went on. This shop now is owned by Davey Allison running his Busch Grand National cars. Directly across this hall, Red Farmer, a guy that's won over 700 races and is still going. And I'm the guy that lives right over those trees on the other side of that hill. And there's been a lot of changes in Hueytown. We got a new post office, a Neil Bonnet Honda. But let me tell you, the biggest change of all, we got Davey Allison's name on the front door of our old race shop.
And if there is one newsmaker for sure, it's the man in black. Number 3, Dale Earnhardt. A long press row, everybody's saying he is the man to beat. He's looked invincible thus far this week. And to my colleague, David Hobbs, who's your newsmaker out here?
Well, there's no doubt about it that Dale Earnhardt has been dominant this week, except in one key aspect. Because when all's said and done, Davey Allison in his Ford is on pole position. Only time in tomorrow's Daytona 500 will tell who is going to be the winner out of these two.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
And of course we're seeing another classic NASCAR Winston Cup phenomenon here, and that is the dynamic duo Davey Allison and Dale Earnhardt hooking up there and trying to pull away from that pack that's duking it out behind them, and so far they seem to be very successfully doing that.
We're down to the final moments of the Daytona 500 for 1991. Circumstances bringing about a shuffle of the leaders once again with 192 complete. Here's Earnhardt out in front. Ernie Irvan has other ideas, as does Kyle Petty in third, Joe Ruttman fourth, Sterling Marlin fifth, Rick Mast sixth, Davey Allison seventh. Earnhardt stays first, Ernie Irvan in second. Here's Davey Allison coming up to third, Kyle Petty in fourth. Now Kyle drops back, and it's Joe Ruttman into fourth. Look at this run down the inside. Car number 4 sliding through, and Ernie Irvan planks it in there. Davey Allison up on the outside. Davey Allison makes a run on Earnhardt for second place. The Ford on the high side, Chevy on the inside, and Chevy out in front. Ernie Irvan, is this going to be an upset? We'll see. 28 and 3 are locked up side by side, and as they run wheel to wheel, Ernie Irvan says, "Goodbye, gang," and pulls 3 car lengths out in front.
Yeah, I think something wrong with Earnhardt's car, that maybe has a tire going down or something. It just doesn't look as smooth in the turns. He and Davey Allison touch going down the backstretch into turn 3. Earnhardt trying to hang on.
Davey Allison, Dale Earnhardt locked side by side.
but every time the two black cars come past side by side, that's a break for Ernie Irvin's chances to win the 500.
And there's trouble off the turn 2.
Ernie Irvin in front, and Davey Allison. Davey Allison and Dale Earnhardt and Davey Allison both out of this race. Ernie Irvin racing back to the line with a big advantage. There's Davey Allison's car coming to a stop. Ernie Irvin's number 4 streaking across the line. Rest of the field coming by. There's Davey Allison stuck on the backside over by the lake, climbing out of car number 28. Ernie Irvin coming to the line and will win the 33rd annual 500 at about 55 miles an hour. Thank you. Hand out and waving.
Allison's chance to win the Daytona 500 ended with 3 laps to go. After the race, he had strong words regarding the way Dale Earnhardt raced him. Racing is a business where you've got to use your head, and I was using mine. He's got everybody so scared right now that nobody would go with me. They all went with Dale, and my car was strong enough to stay on the outside of them. He's an intimidator. If we could have just gotten around Dale without the incident, I think we could have got past Ernie. My car was super strong. While Allison hoped to challenge Earnhardt for the championship, his season got off to a slow start. At Atlanta, in the 4th race of the year, Davey crashed on lap 57 and finished in last place. The team decided to make a change. Crew chief Jake Elder was fired. Larry McReynolds left his position as crew chief for Brett Bodine to accept the job with Robert Yates Racing. Results came very quickly.
It was evident from the green flag that Davey Allison's Havlin Star Ford Thunderbird had plenty of power packed under its hood, pulling away and stretching a lead that he would never relinquish throughout the 2-segment 70-lap affair. Allison had no challengers en route to his first win ever in the Winston. Davey picked up his largest payday ever with a record earning $325,000. A mere hour and a half before race time, Davey Allison was in the garage area sweating bullets. His team frantically installed a new power plant after finding the valve seals leaking on the first string motor. 27 minutes after dropping it in, they fired it up, and from there on in, the competition was in trouble. It didn't take long to figure out that the second string engine that was dumped into Davey's car was certainly delivering. On lap 51, his Ford flew by the Chevy of Dale Earnhardt's to take the lead, a spot he would claim for 264 of the 400-lap affair. Well, Davey Allison simply dominated at the Charlotte Motor Speedway the past 2 weekends. He and his Havlin Star Ford Thunderbird crew cleaned up, winning over $400,000, including the Coca-Cola 600.
And coming up on the white flag, Benny. In the blood is there. 11. Oh, and Davey Allison is spun. Ricky Rudd now has the lead. Here he comes, waving to the pit crew as he passes by. The black flag is shown to Ricky Rudd. Rudd is shown the black flag. Davey Allison is shown the checkered flag. They did not give the win to Ricky Rudd, Bob? No, they gave the black flag to Ricky Rudd as he came down and passed under the start-finish line. They waved the checkered flag to Davey Allison, and he apparently is going to win this race.
As the field comes down the straightaway, and we look at, here comes Davey Allison trying the outside. Earnhardt trying to just move him up in that groove a little. Yes. Intimidating.
Now, Davey got a good run that time off of turn 2. I believe he'll get him going into turn 3 if the car will stick down on the inside. Don't have to stick. He's going to beat him in there.
That's Robert Yates' horsepower. That's what we saw at Charlotte. But now he fades up the track, and look what's going to happen here.
It'll have to stick. I started to say it'll have to stick for him to stay out there, but it didn't have to stick for him to get in there first. But Dale Earnhardt come back in a hurry down on the inside.
3-car battle for the lead. The Michigan 400 live here on CBS. To the line.
This bravura, believe me, these guys chew nails and spit rust. That door handle at those speeds. There you saw Earnhardt's car get a little bit sideways up high in the track. These guys are giving us a show today.
Look how close he moves up on Dale Earnhardt and actually gives him a little bit of a bump there, Ken.
How about that for 180 miles an hour? Just to let you know I'm here. Checkers are about to be unfurled, and the winner of the Michigan 400 is Davey Allison.
Davey, you and Dale hooked up in a colossal speed duel that'll be talked about for months to come.
You know, I got on the outside of him going into one, and we rubbed a little bit, so I just nudged him a little bit down the back straightaway to let him know I was still there and I hadn't gone anywhere. But Dale's a tough competitor, and I had a lot of fun out there racing him today.
As
get this view of Davey Allison at work in his car. Earnhardt first. Here comes Davey Allison to the inside. And you can hear the roar of the crowd over the thunder of the motors as they come to the line.
There's 3 laps to go.
Davey Allison out in front, a Ford on the inside, Chevrolet on the outside for $740,000. Here we go. Backside, 3 laps to go. Earnhardt comes back. Allison stays with him.
Davey now caught down there, can't keep up. The momentum Earnhardt had coming off that turn.
Dale Earnhardt has done it again.
Wow, what a race.
After the race at Talladega in July, Davey was angry that fellow Ford drivers Bill Elliott and Mark Martin helped push Earnhardt instead of him. He punched the wall of his transporter and broke his right pinky finger. 2 days later, his son Robbie was born.
As they come off turn 4 for the final time, Davey Allison will win the AC Delco 500.
But it was Davey Allison who was headed to victory lane. He led 162 of the final 166 circuits. It was his second straight win and 5th of the season, allowing him to push past Rudd into second place in the Winston Cup points with only the Hardee's 500 remaining.
In the 25 races with Larry McReynolds as crew chief, the 28 team scored the most points of any in the Cup Series. It was expected that Allison would be a serious contender for the 1992 championship.
We got close, and I think we showed that we had the material to be championship contenders from when Larry McReynolds came over until the end of the season in 1991. Finally had a group of guys put together that we were all communicating on the same level. Nobody felt like they were better than the next guy, and nobody was too good to do anything, no matter what it was. And everybody was willing to listen. And that, man, it was just a great feeling. And all of a sudden, things just started falling into place. We won the Winston at Charlotte. We won the 600. We went on to win 4 more Winston Cup races in 1991. And we got to within 100 points of Dale at one point, chasing him down for the championship. And then we had a problem at Bristol that set us back. The radiator stopped up, and we went on to Dover, and we lost an engine there, and that put us back to 3rd. And we felt like from that point on, what we needed to do was race hard, try to win some races, and get ourselves ready for 1992. I never really thought that I was going to be the daddy type. I never thought that I was cut out for that kind of a situation, but when Krista came along, I knew instantly that that was what my life was meant to carry on, and that when Robbie came along, we have our girl and a boy, but man, they're just so much fun to watch them grow up. And
after finishing 4th in the Busch Clash, the Robert Yates Racing Team wasn't especially pleased with their qualifying run for the 500. It was 6th quickest, but this team wanted the pole. It was days later when the team would become even less pleased, when their number 1 car, Calhoun, came in on a flatbed in the final practice session on Wednesday. After rolling their backup car, Buster, off the trailer, the team took to a frantic pace to get ready for the 125s.
The largest crowd in the 34-year history of this Winter Classic is here primarily because of one man, Richard Petty, the King. Today will take his last Daytona 500 green flag.
Back straightaway at over 190 miles per hour. Here comes Davey Allison down to the inside. Davey Allison a little squirrely there as he made that 3rd turn pass. Take a look at this from Mark Martin's vantage.
Yeah, a lot of cars in front. There's Davey Allison. He slipped back a little bit, Ken. He was up there in 3rd position not too long ago.
And they're about to make it 3 wide off the banking. Ernie Irvan down on the inside of number 4. Storms into the lead in the back straightaway. Ernie Irvan out of Modesto, California. Hits. He's into Elliott. They're sliding, trying to correct. Picked him up. Into the wall goes Sterling Marlin. And the leaders are all in trouble here. Richard Petty's car getting hit.
A serious crash in the back straightaway.
The aero engineers told them that 2 abreast is going to be tricky. 3 is going to almost be a certain wreck. Here they go. There's 3 abreast. They get tangled up. Davey Allison slid by on the outside, but these other guys, it's too late now.
Look here. There's your leader, 28 Davey Allison, pulling away just a bit. And then in the second spot is number 21, Morgan Shepherd.
It looks like we're going to see some offensive and defensive racing now.
Back to the stripe, white flag, and 1 lap to go to decide the Daytona 500. Davey Allison in front and Morgan Shepherd in second. Here they come. Morgan down to the line. Davey Allison first. Morgan Shepherd gets it all back there. Has he got anything left? Coming to the stripe. Morgan comes to the inside, and Davey Allison is going to win the Daytona 500. The Alabama gang has done it again. The son of a great champion at this track, Bobby Allison. Davey Allison victorious in the 34th annual Daytona 500.
I cannot believe it. Look at that. We won.
We did it, Daddy.
We won.
Oh.
Give me a kiss.
Yeah.
He can't win anymore.
All right. After you. After you, I'll go.
All right, baby. Good job, baby. Oh, I kept telling myself and praying to God, just please let me make the right moves at the end of this race. And we caught lap traffic at the right times. This old Texaco Haviland Thunderbird was right on the bottom and just didn't give Morgan enough room to get alongside of me. You know, I saw that thing fixing to happen on the back straightaway over there when Sterling went down below Bill, and then Ernie made it 3 wide to the bottom. And I just said, I backed off and moved it outside, and those guys all spun to the inside. That just left the door wide open for us.
Well, you had a second here to your dad about 5 years ago or so. This has got to make it. It's got to be a sweet one.
Yeah, this is a sweet race right now. You know, I just can't believe it. I'm shaking all over because we finally won the Daytona 500. And with a win like this, it sure puts the adrenaline in your blood veins. You know, I think in about 30 minutes I'll probably collapse from disbelief. But I got 2 nice kids, 2 great kids, and a great wife over here. And it's just been a great day for us.
Tell me about those last few laps. How much time did you spend looking in the mirror?
I spent about 90% of each lap. Krista, this has been a dream of mine since I was a little kid. And we've been down here several times with the fastest car and haven't been able to win. And then all of a sudden, things just went our way today. I can't say anything more. You know, I watched Morgan, and I tried to make sure I didn't give him room to go anywhere. I didn't do anything out of line or crazy. I just stayed where he needed to be, and he couldn't get alongside of us. We won the race. Tomorrow I'll probably realize it more than I do right now.
It's been a long week down here, losing our primary car, but old Buster come out of the truck and done good for us, you know, but maybe you find this hard to believe, but we wasn't as good as we could have been today. You know, that's the truth. The car pushed a good part of the day, but had a strong enough motor to tote us down to the other end where we could get down there and go back the other way.
Winning the Daytona 500 was probably the realization of the oldest goal that I've had to that point. I've always wanted to win the Daytona 500, but I've also always wanted the Winston Cup Championship, and that's still out there. That's one of those carrots that we're still trying to get a hold of.
On April 1st, the patriarch of the Allison family, Pop Allison, died at age 87. For decades, Pop was a constant sight at racetracks as he watched his sons Bobby and Donnie. Davey entered Bristol 4 days later, hoping for an emotional win, but hit his first roadblock of the season.
And Davey Allison just flew going into turn 3, took Ernie Irvin and Darrell Walton. Yeah, there's a lot of oil going into that turn. As Davey went into turn 3, you could see the big puff of smoke come out of it, and he slid into the wall.
Well, the diagnosis on Davey Allison was quite simple. He separated a rib from the cartilage here in the front near the sternum or breastbone. He tried to get in the car here on Friday to practice and qualify. He ran 4 laps and the pain was excruciating. He could not get in. Now, what they have done is gone to an orthopedic surgeon locally and get a transcutaneous nerve stimulator. Well, what is that? Basically, it's a battery-operated electrical device attached to his back to try to keep the pain minimal.
What do you got there? Is that electrical?
This is a 10's unit.
Where's it hooked to?
Right underneath his arm, right on the muscle.
Right up here.
Well, you consider when Davey Allison could not even get in the car 2 days ago to qualify it, he had to get Jimmy Hensley to qualify the car. Hensley did a great job qualifying at 7th. He has not asked once to get out of the race car. In fact, he's right now running in the top 5.
Here we go. Here's the last lap. The white flag is out. Allison leads down the backstretch. Rusty looks to the inside in turn number 3. Will it be Allison or Wallace? Here they come off the 4th turn. It is going to be Davey Allison winning by about a car length over Rusty Wallace.
I want to say hi to my grandmother out there. I love you, Grandma. Hi to Liz and Krista and Robbie, too. Sorry I'm not coming home tonight, but I'll see y'all in a week or so.
Davey Allison, who lost Pop Allison, his grandfather, a couple weeks ago, an emotional win here. He overcomes pain and all the grief to go to victory lane for the 2nd time in 1992.
12 of the best racing has to offer in equally prepared cars. It's the Dodge International Race of Champions. So now working toward the white flag with Davey Allison out in front. And the time for decision has come for Dale Earnhardt as he forces his way down inside the tri-oval, forces Allison up to the outside. Rusty Wallace is just behind as he picks up a toe from Wallace and then from Allison as the white flag is already out and we are on the final lap as Earnhardt a little bit early has made the move. Will it pay off or will Rusty Wallace be in the spectacular position?
And Rudd in that green car is almost where he said he wanted to be, as Wallace, who is where he wanted to be, now takes the lead.
The teamwork is gone now. As Wallace, look at it, they come down, they touch, Gann tries to move to the inside, Davey Jones forces up into the center, and Davey Jones moves into the lead. It's Gann and Earnhardt alongside as they are 3 abreast. This is the final corner. Davey Allison moves down to the inside. Davey Allison has it at the moment. Earnhardt runs in 2nd place as they scream for the line. They're still 4 abreast. It looks like Davey Jones almost lost it for a second there. The line is just beyond the tri-oval. Allison is out in front. Earnhardt makes his move down to the inside, and Allison just inches him out at the line.
Ernie Irvan looking to the inside. There goes Dale Earnhardt to the outside. Ernie will follow him. Dale slides way up on the racetrack. He's in a battle for 2nd position with Bill Elliott. They move off of turn number 4 and come down through the tri-oval. Davey Allison still has the lead. He's trying to break the draft. It looks like he's going to win it. Battle for 2nd between Elliott and Earnhardt. Here's the checkered flag, and Davey Allison wins it.
The win was Davey Allison's 2nd leg towards the Winston Million. He secured $100,000 with a chance to take it all at Charlotte.
That's not a bad payday today. The Winston Million would be nice. We've got two more chances for it. Both of them are tracks that we run good at. One of them we've won at before, and that's Charlotte. So we're looking forward to going to Charlotte. And if we don't win it there, then the option is still open at Darlington. Maybe we can go down to Darlington in September and do something we haven't been able to do there yet.
Here at Charlotte, Davey Allison and this car, nicknamed 007, are picking up right where they left off last year. The defending champion of the Winston and the Coca-Cola 600 is set to try and do it all again from the pole. Qualifying for the Winston consisted of 3 laps and a pit stop. Not only Davey's driving, but the coordination of his Larry McReynolds-led pit crew, getting him in and out with 2 tires in just 11 seconds, put the Haviland Ford at the top and brought Robert Yates Racing $50,000 for just over 2 minutes' work.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
And we'll get ready for round 2. Checkered flag, 30 laps down. Allison.
The cars invert. According to the fans, and they will be inverted.
The fans have voted to put you in the back of the field. How you feel about that?
Well, I heard that 8,000 voted to invert it, 4,000 voted against inverting it, and that surprised me. It surprised me that many voted against inverting it. But, yeah, we kind of figured it was coming, and we came here to run hard, Glenn. The Texas Havoline Thunderbird's driving pretty good. We'll just have to see what we can do with the traffic now.
So from the front, from the penthouse to the outhouse, Davey Allison goes to the back of the field.
But boy, does that little outhouse he got run.
Does it ever. Davey Allison is up to 8th. Pole sitter, fastest car here for much of the week. He's in 8th spot. Out of turn number 4 for $50,000. The Felix Sabates Mellow Yellow Pontiac. Kyle Petty gets $50,000.
Yeah, we just keep trying to work on it, to make it better. It wasn't quite as good as it was the first segment, but we didn't really have to race nobody the first segment. That makes a difference. So we got to race them now for 10 laps, and we'll see what we got.
3 abreast. Let's count 3 across. Let's try 4. There's one trying to get in the middle there.
Davey,
I'm going to look at this.
Davey just couldn't wait any longer. He had to go for the bottom of the racetrack, and boom, goodbye. Seven laps to go. Now let's see how strong Kyle is in the corner if he can get away from Earnhardt.
You better watch this 28. I'm telling you, that car is accelerating.
White flag, 1 lap to go.
He's going to get a shot at him.
Kyle Petty is there. He is just a car length back of Earnhardt. Davey Allison coming up, but I don't think will be a factor. Kyle just hauls it off the corner. He's got the inside.
I'll tell you what.
He's up to Earnhardt's bumper. Earnhardt takes it.
They're on the racing service down on the flat part of the racetrack.
Look out. And it's Kyle Petty. Kyle Petty coming to the checkered flag. Here comes Davey Allison to the bottom. It'll be the finish everybody was waiting for. They crashed past the finish line. They have crashed into turn number 1. And Davey Allison is in a shower of sparks.
He won the race, but he sure paid the price for it.
Unbelievable. We're back at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Davey Allison has been helped from his car. And rather than victory lane, he's going to be transported over to the infield care center. Larry McReynolds going to make the trip with him.
They're unloading that beaten, battered Ford Thunderbird up here in victory lane. I guess the car that's had that much success here, they weren't going to deny it one final trip to victory lane.
The crash wasn't intentional, but it was a result of 2 guys that were really trying hard to win that race and lost sight of what might happen on the other side of the finish line. And that's one thought that'll never go away. From now on, if I'm driving a race car and I'm racing somebody for the win, I'm not going to quit driving it until I slow the car down.
The hype was tremendous on the Winston Million and Davey Allison going into the Coca-Cola 600.
After conquering both the Daytona 500 and the Winston 500, Davey Allison's charge towards taking the Winston Million was nothing short of a media extravaganza. And the finish of the Winston All-Star race only heightened the hype surrounding the Havoline Ford driver. While Davey recuperated from the accident Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, the media managed to make a story out of the hood of his crashed race car. They acquired it and auctioned it off for charity. On Wednesday, Allison was back at the track, and so was the media. Davey seemed calm, cool, and collected, but the press got all shook up when Davey decided to let veteran driver Neil Bonnet shake down his Havoline Ford.
We told everybody we'd be here today to let them know what happened and how things stand, and here we are. But first, thanks. Now,
prior to qualifying, a press conference was held where Davey provided answers to the million-dollar questions and his Alabama connections.
Mostly it's allowing me to take some time to recuperate and to get feeling better. Neil is a good friend of mine, and a lot of people don't realize that Neil's actually the one that gave me the opportunity to be where I'm at right now. I drove his car in 1986 at Talladega after he injured his shoulder at Pocono the week before.
It kind of surprised me. Davey's really focused. He's got a lot of things in the works, and, you know, he was talking about, man, who would have ever thought this 2 years ago? And here he is right in the middle of leading the points for the championship with the $1 million up for grabs and being pretty darn mature. He's really handling himself well, and I wouldn't expect anything different from him.
He was a little bruised up, but still qualified 17th. The saga continued. Could he win the race? Could he even go the distance? For newspapers and television, it had the potential to be a $1 million story.
I'd be very surprised if most motorsports publications or writers didn't follow the story very closely and the repercussions thereof. So I think it's very high. It's got to rate very high on the list. You got to consider what's at stake in the man doing it.
On Thursday, television media that couldn't be in attendance for the 600 took turns talking with Davey. 5 minutes apiece for stations like WABC in New York and KRON in San Francisco. All got 5 minutes with the one man that had a shot at the Winston Million for the first time in 7 years.
Talk about, you mentioned the pain in your shoulder and other bumps.
Well, Davey Allison, you look like one tired camper.
Yeah, I'm pretty well exhausted, Dick, but, you know, we had a good run today with Texaco Haviland Thunderbird. Led some laps, came up from 17th, and we just got outrun there at the end of the race. That's the way it goes sometimes.
Pretty hot in the car today?
Well, it's pretty hot out there, but, you know, we had a bunch of stuff in there to cool everything down except the floorboard, and the floorboard burned my left heel, but we'll just get ready to go to Dover next week.
Just one beat-up young man. Everything's happened to him in 1992.
Throughout the summer of 1992, the Allison family was thriving. Clifford was splitting his time between the Busch Series and ARCA, which included a second-place finish in an ARCA race at Texas World Speedway, and working with his youngest son, re-energized Bobby. 4 years after his Pocono crash, Bobby was hinting at a comeback to the Winston Cup Series. In September 1991, Bobby ran test laps at Martinsville, and again 2 weeks later at North Wilkesboro. While he wouldn't commit to a return, at Sonoma in June 1992, he said that racing the fall Martinsville race was a possibility. The family was split over the idea. Judy was opposed, while Davey was in support, saying Bobby at 60% was better than some drivers at 100%. Clifford continued his strong performances in ARCA, with seconds at Michigan and Pocono. Following a 10th place finish at Daytona in July, NASCAR had a week off. In that time, Davey earned his helicopter pilot license and took a fishing trip to the Bahamas. It was there that he began suffering strong headaches and a fever. Fearing the symptoms were effects from his crash at the Winston, Davey returned to a head injury specialist in Charlotte for tests. He spent 2 nights in the hospital, where he was diagnosed with a virus unrelated to the crash.
Davey Allison remains on top. He's been there since the first race at Daytona. We mentioned how this track can give drivers headaches. Well, Davey Allison had a severe headache last week that put him in the hospital. Nothing caused by anything here at the racetrack, but he has overcome that to win the pole position.
After dominating the first half of the 1992 season, Davies begins the second half with no concerns about the car or the track, but a little bit about your health. 2 days in the hospital, Davey. How are you?
Well, Jerry, right now I'm doing real good. I was a little bit ill earlier this week, but I feel healthy and strong, ready to take this Texaco Haviland Thunderbird the distance today.
Looking for the green flag that will start our race today. They get it, and the race is on.
There we see Davey on the inside. He is on the inside of Derek Cope, trying to get by him, and meanwhile, Darrell Walter right on the back bumper of Davey.
Into the guardrail, side over side, end over end, and Davey Allison has experienced a horrifying crash.
Oh! Where Davey flipped, it's demolished. Darrell turned him. There, it was bad. Okay, Davey? Davey, you okay?
There is Davey on the stretcher being taken to a gurney that will put him into the ambulance. And transported to the nearest medical facility for further attention. And the word we had was that Davey was conscious. We have no other information than that. And there is the helicopter that is transporting Davey Allison to a medical facility to be further evaluated. Now, the word we have is, and this is official from NASCAR, he has a broken right forearm, a swollen eye. However, he is conscious and in stable condition.
Well, we've been hearing this rumor all week that somehow Davey Allison would get back in a race car this week here in Talladega, Alabama. And indeed, it is true. At 8 a.m. this morning, Allison climbed into his Texaco Haviland Ford and began making laps around this 2.66-mile track. Not one lap, but 12 laps. And the question is now, will Davey get out after one lap Sunday, or will he ride on to the first yellow caution flag? That's the big question. He has some special Velcro on the shifting lever and the steering wheel so that his right arm can help grip those two objects as he takes his laps around this racetrack under green on Sunday.
Well, the last thing I remember prior to climbing out of the car was seeing Kyle Petty upside down and thinking one of us is not going the right direction. And it sounded like mine. I don't want to put any kind of unnecessary discomfort in anybody else's mind that they think I'm out competing against them, some of the other drivers, and not up to full capacity and something that I don't need to be doing. So it's in my best judgment, and everyone else's too, I think, that I should go to the tail end of the line. If y'all want to see it, I'll show them to you, but it's ugly. So.
All right. Today it's the Die Hard 500 from the Talladega Superspeedway, and there's Davey Allison's car. And believe it or not, he's in it. Going to give it a go despite a shattered arm being in a cast. It's been a remarkable comeback and a remarkable story.
His right forearm has two plates in it to hold it together. He's got pins across the wrist bones to hold him in position, and he's got a broken collarbone. He's sitting here in a cockpit that is 103 degrees. Why is this man smiling?
Can't think of any better place to be, Mike. It's great therapy to be back in the car today, and Bobby Hillen's done a great job for us. All the guys at the shop have done a great job bouncing back from the adversity this week, and we want to win this championship, and that's why I'm here today.
He has Velcro on his glove. He's wearing a full cast. He's got Velcro on the steering wheel and on the gear shift knob to aid him in getting around this racetrack.
2.6 miles around. There's Davey Allison still out there moving through traffic. Now, caution is out. Like yellow is on the racetrack.
Rain, we understand, in turn one. Break for Davey Allison.
They're making that change on Davey Allison to Bobby Hillen right now for car number 28.
Well, here he is getting out of the car, and they want to help him. The reach in want to help him, but they can't, Ken. He has to do it on his own power, and he did. And there's Bobby Hillen going in the car.
And got a great ovation for it.
That car will fly. I hope that we get him back out in time, get him in good position. The brakes go okay today. They got a good shot at winning this race. And we're just happy that things have worked out the way they have.
Bobby Hillen has put Davey Allison in front of Bill Elliott by 1 point after this 17th event of the season with 13 more to go. Let's join Randy Penburton with the guy who made it all possible for Davey today.
Well, let's first clue Bobby in. You put him up by 1 point in the Winston Cup Championship points race. You did an excellent job today in that automobile.
Thank you very much. That was my job, and I thank Robert Yates, the whole Texaco Haviland Thunderbird race team for letting me have this opportunity. You know, the Lord was good to us early on with the rain, and had a chance to get Davey out, get him out safe, not getting too big of a hurry. And
I've seen a lot of wrecks in this business. I've seen a lot of bad wrecks. And I've seen some that weren't so bad looking as the wreck that I was in at Pocono. Some of the ones that weren't so bad looking, people didn't walk away from. And I don't recall many of them that looked worse than what our wreck looked or appeared that people did walk away from. So I got to thinking about that, and there was a message being sent to me. There's a reason why I'm still here, and that's the part of me that's different. By looking back on it now, I think, yeah, maybe there was something being sent to me you know, through the little wrecks at Daytona in practice, here in the race, Martinsville, Charlotte, Sears Point, you know, something was trying to tell me something along the way. And then in Pocono, wake up, you know, open your ears, open your eyes. And, you know, I don't know what the future holds, but whatever it is, I'm going to try my best to do it right.
In August, the Busch Series made their debut at Michigan International Speedway. Ahead of the race, a private test session was held on Thursday for teams before the weekend began. Clifford Allison looked for a strong run after his runner-up finish in the ARCA race there in June. Goodyear had introduced radial tires at Michigan in 1992. While the ARCA series still raced bias plies, the radials in the Busch series were faster but easier to lose control of. Busch teams complained about NASCAR rules, which outlawed camber on the rear wheels in their series and caused the radial tires to be even harder to control. At 1:30 in the afternoon, Clifford entered turn 3 and the car spun, impacting the wall with the left side. Bobby Labonte was the first driver to the scene and stopped his car. Bobby Allison walked from the garage to the crash site. When help arrived at the car, it was discovered that the driver's seat mountings had broken in the accident. Unrestrained in the crash, Clifford died instantly of head injuries.
Bob, I don't know of any family that's gone through more in such a short period of time than the Allison. Losing Pop, Bobby's father, after a long battle with cancer in April. Then the series of accidents and illness that Davey has encountered. And now this.
As if overcoming the pain of physical injury weren't enough, today Davey Allison must bear the emotional burden of a devastating loss. 4 days ago, his younger brother Clifford lost his life in a practice accident here at Michigan. I challenge you to find another individual who must overcome the physical and emotional adversity that faces one Davey Allison today. Where does he get his strength? He told me it comes from the plaque that hangs over his office wall that he sees every day when he goes to work. And the plaque reads, "There isn't anything that can happen today that me and the Lord can't handle."
I had some very close friends the weekend of the race at Michigan that Clifford died tell me to go home. And in some ways, and in some other lines of work, that probably would have been the right thing to do. But if I had done that, I would have been letting him down. I would have been letting Clifford down, because so much of our life has been based on whatever happens to someone else in our family, we still have to do our best to do our job right. And if I had gone home that weekend and not gotten in that car, I'm not sure I could have gotten in it the next week either.
Immediately after finishing 5th, Davey flew to Hueytown for Clifford's wake on Sunday night. The funeral was Monday morning.
1992 changed me in a lot of ways. We went through a lot of mental, a lot of physical stress and trying times that I never thought I'd have to face. And the thing that I think made the biggest impression on me was that I lived through a wreck, that I may not have been here. And prior to that, I had taken an awful lot of things for granted. I expected an awful lot to happen rather than trying to perform and make it happen. I expected a lot of things to happen. And the thing that got left behind the most and left out the most was my family. And then when the situation came about with my brother, it reinforced it. You know, you never know really what you have until it's not there. I've heard that saying over and over throughout my life and never grasped what the full reality of that saying was until Clifford died in that crash. And it was like all of a sudden I sat back and I said, wait a minute, you know, that very easily could have been me at Pocono, and then my family, my wife, my kids wouldn't have me there. So I need to let them know from now on that they're number one. And inside me, I always had placed them number one, but I wanted too much of that material stuff for myself too, to recognize that I was leaving them out. And then all of a sudden it just brought back to me and laid out on the table, says, here fella, you better take a look at this. And you know, I read the book. Well, I'm in pretty good shape, Jerry. The only thing that's a question is the pins in my hand and that go into my wrist, and they're a little bit tender at times, but from the practice and everything, I haven't had any problems. I feel like I can go the full 500 laps tonight. We'll see what happens.
Now, you had 2 minor procedures last week. You had 1 pin removed from...
Had a pin removed from here that they took out. This one over here was backing out and was up against the skin from the inside. They went in and pushed it back in a little and clipped it off. And I tried to talk them into going ahead and take it out. I don't need all them things anymore, I don't think, but they know better. The doctors know best.
Now, emotionally, I know Mom's watching back home. How's the family?
Everybody is doing great. You know, it's been a tough year in some ways, but it's been a great year in others. And you got to just keep your chin up and keep digging. Don't let the bad things get you down, you know. But I'll have to say the last couple weeks have been the toughest, and my mom's done a remarkable job. I'd like to say hi, Mom. I love you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
And Davey Allison has called Earnhardt and gets alongside.
The crowd rises to its feet here in the main grandstand as they watch Allison go to third, passing Earnhardt.
Oh, Davey Allison, points leader, spins up in 3, backs in the wall.
Here's Marlin also spinning.
Car just got away from me down there going into turn 3. It had been a little bit loose getting in the corner, but it wasn't bad. And then that lap, I guess I just locked the right rear wheel up, so hopefully we can get it fixed and get out there and get some points.
Come up on Davey Allison, and Jeff might pinch Brett down on the inside of the track. Let's see what he does.
He'll let him go dead, surely.
And Davey just got out of the way. No, Brett, I believe Brett tapped him just a little bit coming off that corner.
Yep. Boy, Davey is just having a terrible evening.
Well, I think I'm going to go home and regroup and get with these guys, you know, and try to figure out what it's going to take to get myself back going again because, you know, I was off a little bit tonight and I made the mistakes. I got to go get better.
Bill Elliott now has a 109-point advantage over Davey Allison.
It's not my nature to hold back. I want to go as hard as I can all the time. And, you know, I got a lesson taught to me at Bristol by not respecting my limitations the way that I should, and ended up tearing the car up and costing us some points, costing us a decent finish. So I've got to take that knowledge now and use it for the future until I am back to 100%.
It seems impossible that a driver could go on after losing a brother and experiencing horrifying crashes, but Davey Allison is going on, and today will seek the greatest financial reward of his career, $1 million. As he pursues his dream, he'll try to put behind him the memories of the recent past. You are looking live at Davey Allison as he sits poised in his race car, hoping to do something that he has never done before, win at Darlington. If he does today, he'll capture the Winston Million, given to the driver who can win 3 of 4 selected NASCAR Winston Cup races. Look at the crowd. They're on their feet waving as the green flag waves, and the Mountain Dew Southern 500 rolls at Darlington.
Davey closing in, coming off that turn. He has some momentum, and he has a lot of power. He just moves right on around.
Well, you guys are exactly right. You said they're expecting Davey Allison to come in, but they are expecting now to bring Davey Allison in, rain or no rain. They can't afford to run him out of fuel here in Darlington and possibly lose a lap and lose a chance at the Winston Million. Davey sitting very patiently, watching the crowd. 20.9 seconds as he is down and headed back to turn 1.
Now, here's the circumstances at the moment. Darrell Waltrip is the leader of this race. He has not come in for a pit stop. Rudd was a leader. He came in. The lead is now in the hands of Darrell Waltrip, and there is reported to be rain in the area.
I didn't think you'd ever get to that. It's raining.
The yellow is out. The yellow is out because of rain. Darrell Waltrip is in the lead. If it should come a downpour and they're not able to restart this race, Waltrip would win. The red flag tells it all. The race has been stopped because of rain on lap 298.
Davey, you ran up front all day and waited for rain, and now you pit and the rain's come.
Yeah, Jerry, I had a feeling that was going to happen, but, you know, you got to take some chances in this business. And
The race never restarted, and Davey finished in 5th place. Bill Elliott extended his points lead to 154, leaving Dover in September. But Elliott's team fell apart late in the season.
You ain't gonna believe it, folks.
Yep.
The 11 car blew up.
Bill Elliott, big puff of smoke down the straightaway. He's behind the wall.
Several crew members now looking at the right rear. That's where the track bar attaches. They're shaking their head. This does not look good. Elliott with a serious problem in the right rear corner of the car.
Winston Cup point lead in jeopardy right here.
Right now, you see them spraying water through the grill and into the cooling system.
Junior's, boy, look at the thing. It's cut a cylinder down. And, it must have ran so hard it blew a head gasket or something. But
out of turn 4, Davey Allison will win it.
Hey, that hero.
All right. That says it all.
Yeah, take back what you said.
That's great. Smart race. I mean, smart race.
One thing about it, luck plays a big part of this game, and today was our lucky day. And I just got to say thanks to Larry McReynolds and Robert Yates for sticking behind me through the tough times. I just can't believe it.
Congratulations again. He's getting emotional now. Let's let him enjoy this, Mike.
His first win since that terrible tumble at Pocono in July. Davey Allison overcome with emotion. The winner and the point leader here in Phoenix. Elliott's 10 behind Kulwicki, and Allen is just 30 points behind Davey Allison. And the pressure builds to Atlanta.
Today, live from Atlanta Motor Speedway near Hampton, Georgia, it's the Hooters 500. A beautiful day here, and the crowd is anticipating perhaps the biggest race in NASCAR history, at least in the modern era. There are fans rooting for their favorite driver, as for the first time in NASCAR history, 6 drivers are eligible for the championship going into this event. The quest for the Cup standings show Davey Allison on top by 30 over Alan Kulwicki, but also Bill Elliott, Harry Gant, and Kyle Petty are eligible. And then Mark Martin is the 6th driver mathematically capable of taking the championship here today.
Jerry, the whole season has been an emotional roller coaster for Davey Allison. A lot of people say for what he's been through, he deserves to win this championship. And hard work and perseverance have paid off. Davey, you are in the lead heading in here to the last race. How you holding up, buddy?
I'll tell you, John, right now I'm just incredibly nervous. I don't think I've ever been this nervous in my life, but we're excited. A lot of anticipation going around right now. A lot of hard work by this team has paid off to get us to where we are, but we want to earn this championship today.
It's kind of unusual to hear a driver admit that he is nervous before a race. But if things go the way they tell me they go with race drivers, at this point, now that the car has started, he's within a half lap of going green. He's forgotten all that and is calmed down now and ready to race. The crowd rises to its feet, salutes the field as it comes down. The green flag waves and the Hooters 500 is underway.
He's still out of the lap.
Brett Bodine would not let Rick Oh, and we have a spin. Bodine is in the fence. So is Rick Mast.
No. Davey got through. Kyle Petty got through. I think I saw Alan Kulwicki on the bottom of the racetrack getting through.
Guys, a lot of concern down here in Davey Allison's pit. Now, Larry McReynolds behind me has been talking to Davey. Let me try to grab Joey Knuckles quickly. Joey, the concern is the damage on the left rear. What would that do to the car here early in the race?
Well, Jimmy Spencer pulled up there and told us that it's not going to rub. What we're concerned with is air getting up inside the trunk. The way it's pulled out, it's pulled apart from our crush panel, so that's going to kind of act like a parachute.
Points as of now. Look how close it is. 4 separating Allison and Kulwicki. Elliott is 3rd in the points if they were to be awarded right now, but we've got a long way to go. The Texaco Haviland crew of Davey Allison watches their driver very closely. They have been told that there may be a problem with the car.
Davey just yelled to the crew, I think I run over something on the track and cut a left front tire. They all scampered up to the pit wall with tires. Davey said, wait a minute. He said, it may not be cut. It may just be a vibrating exhaust pipe. So he ran another lap. He backed off the throttle for about half a lap, and he came back to full throttle. I think it's okay, guys. I believe we're going to be all right.
If points were awarded right now, Davey Allison would win the Winston Cup. Kowicki would finish second, then Elliott, Kyle Petty, Harry Gant, and Mark Martin. Davey Allison sixth, Kowicki is the leader, and Elliott is second at this point. Now,
but for the last 3 years here, he has earned more points.
Oh, look out.
Davey Allison is in the crash, Bob.
Oh, Ernie Irvin, and it's all over for Davey Allison.
No, it's not over yet. I don't think he hit him that hard, maybe.
Well, he hit pretty well, I think.
He's got a lot of damage to the right side of the car.
Ernie Irvin spinning, coming off of corner number 4.
Davey has got his car moving.
Yeah, he's trying to pull away.
But he can't steer it.
But it won't turn.
It won't turn. The right front will not work. Oh, no, the right front won't work. He's broken the tie rod end off the car, so when they turn the steering wheel, the right front tire won't turn. And there he's a lap down.
Davey desperately trying to get the car to turn, but it won't happen.
Yeah, he knows his championship hopes are over.
But there will be other years, there's no question about that, and I'm sure, as Davey will tell you, if we do have an interview with him, he waves to the fans as he gets in the ambulance that regardless of what has happened here, he's had a tremendous season.
Guys, obviously the mood here in the Davey Allison pit is quite somber, but let me tell you what Larry McReynolds said. You talk about a competitor. Now, Larry McReynolds is the crew chief for Davey Allison. He turned and said, guys, the championship may be over, but we're going to fix this car and still fight for 3rd, 4th, 5th, somewhere in the points. We're not going to quit. And off they took, running up pit road to try to wait for the car to be pulled in. So, believe me, there is no quit here in this Havoline team.
That's just the way it goes sometimes. We had some troubles, and we're trying to work our way back up there, just trying to run a smart race, and ran over something in turn 3 earlier in the race, and we had to come in and repair the car from that. We caught a lucky caution flag, and I thought, all right, we're going to be okay now. And then I saw Ernie get loose over there in 4, and we just ran out of room. I hate it for all of them guys in the garage area. Everybody at Robert Yates Racing deserves a lot better than this, and they deserve to win that championship this year, and we didn't get it, so we'll just go back and we'll get ready for next year, and we'll come out and try again. It just wasn't meant to be.
Pretty good company, and Davey Allison goes back out onto the racetrack. Bill Elliott comes off the 4th corner. He wins the Hooters 500. But Alan Kowicki is coming off of corner number 4, knowing that he's winning the championship. There's the checkered flag for Alan. He's the champion for 92.
Davey Allison is the most qualified driver there is. He's got the knowledge, he's got the savvy, he's got everything there is to know about racing. He is number 1. That's all I can say. He's number 1.
Because he is so cute. He's such a good race car driver. He's just wonderful. He's fun to watch.
I like Davey Allison because he's afforded me an awful lot of pleasure in the last 4 or 5 years. Every Sunday when there's a race, I enjoy it thoroughly. And I always say a little prayer for him. And he usually wins when I pray real hard. Sometimes when I don't, I think I haven't asked hard enough. But he's wonderful. It's good looking too.
When I see a little kid out there that looks up at us and says, I want to be like Davey Allison, or I want to get a suit like Davey Allison, or I want a car like Davey Allison, or whatever, when I see that, I think, I'm glad I was raised in a good family. Because there are a lot of things in my past that wasn't so great that I did, but I think the upbringing that I had at least taught me that I should be a good example for kids to follow. And when I see that now, when I see those kids that are out there and I say, oh man, this guy, he's really looking at what I'm doing, I want to make sure that I can be a good example for those people. And it makes you feel good when somebody comes up there and tells you, you know, I want to be like you, that really makes you feel good.
So Davey Allison scored those 5 wins a year ago, picks up his first if he can just keep it flying here through a couple more. Davey Allison has done it. He wins by a margin of 5 and 2/10 seconds.
This is going to be the best momentum builder that Robert Yates Racing could possibly have right now. We had a bad start, but we never gave up. These guys never give up. They're the most enthusiastic bunch of people I've ever worked with, and I'll tell you what, I think they're the best.
Allison with a good run here today. Battled Alan Kulwicki early on, but now runs alone at the lead. But this day will belong to Davey Allison as he comes across the line in first. Earnhardt in second. You got a glimpse there as Davey reaches up to wave to the crowd, pulls the net out of his window.
It was here in these majestic hills that tragedy has struck the motorsports world. On Thursday night at approximately 9:30 p.m., a fiery plane crash claimed the life of 38-year-old Wisconsin native Alan Kulwicki, along with 3 key members of his racing team. In 1992, November, a little over 5 months ago, the ultimate underdog wrote the final chapter in his rags-to-riches journey as he captured the Winston Cup Championship along with the hearts of millions of race fans around the world. Yes, Alan Kulwicki is gone, but the legacy of his miraculous climb to the pinnacle of motorsports will stand as an inspiration to all for years to come.
I really believe there are things that happen that we can control. There are things that happen that we can't control. And the things that do happen that we can't control, I feel like happen for a reason. A lot of times those reasons aren't completely evident right away. And I was disappointed that we didn't win the Winston Cup Championship in 1992. Probably more disappointed over that than anything else I'd ever been involved in. But I knew that because of the way things happened, there had to be more to it than that. It had to be either a lesson for me or there was another purpose behind it. And now, looking back on it, I'm glad that it ended the way that it did. I still have that opportunity out there, and the man who won the Winston Cup Championship in 1992 is gone, and he'll never have that opportunity again. And I'm glad he got to experience that before he went.
In addition to all the racing that went on, there was also a big announcement concerning a new racing series, one that will see driving legends age 50 and older competing in identically prepared cars. The new series will be called Fastmasters.
And starting sixth, 1983 Winston Cup champion, ladies and gentlemen, 3-time winner of the Daytona 500, 6 times most popular driver, injured in '88. He's back in 1993 from Hueytown, Alabama, 55 years of age. Back in racing tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Allison. The battle continues for third. Aiken wants to move up one spot. It's Lorenzen there in the silver number 7. He rides in second. Then the 3-car of Allison is third. And fourth is Bob Aiken, the silver number 2. There is the checker flag. What a surprise. The fans salute. Look out. Allison, he tried it, but he finished third. Lorenzen takes second. Allison takes third. And look at Davey looking on as Dad takes third position after 5 years out of the cockpit. There's a look. Look at the OK. He's waving to somebody, another competitor perhaps. And look at the smile. Look at the grin on Bobby Allison.
I don't think any of us sitting here or at home can imagine the feelings that man and his family have right now. After all this time, he's just got his pilot's license back. He's just gotten back in a race car. This has got to be one of the most satisfying parts of his whole life, to know that he can do this again.
Bobby, how did it feel to get back out on the racetrack?
That really feels so good. I'm telling you, and what a neat car. You know, I got to really compliment the cars. The Jaguar is really a neat piece, and the effort just really is great.
David, did you have a great time? What did you think of the dad? How'd he do?
I thought he did great.
Would you like to get behind the wheel of one of these in, say, 20 or 30 years?
Well, I've got 18 years before I can qualify for it, so I think I'll stick to the Winston Cup cars for now.
Yeah, and here we go. Miss Allison, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right.
How did you feel watching him out there on the track again?
It was all right. It was really good, just like old time.
Well, we're really happy for all of the Allison family. Did a great job.
We look at Bobby Allison, his return after 5 years back in the cockpit. The win will go to Ed, the Ace McCullough. He will win both of our 10-lap heats here. The battle for second. Bob Aiken will take second. Bobby Allison will take third.
Well, I'm not disappointed. Not too disappointed, but I did want to get that other little spot up in there to be able to go ahead and move on. But the event's going to be really super. A lot of people are going to have a good time, and the fans, I think, will really love it.
I don't think anybody here is more proud than this man standing on the left. Davey Allison, this is such a great family story and has been for so many years. What do you think of the old man's performance tonight?
Well, I'll tell you, he's still my hero. I think he did a great job, and it was real exciting. He recovered real good from the incident at the start of the road course event and went on to finish third. And, you know, to have 2 third-place finishes tonight's a pretty outstanding accomplishment, too.
And you were all set to file a protest over the tiebreaker, right?
Yeah, I think that this is not fair here. He was the most consistent of the two, and you eliminated one event on us, but I think he did a great job. Everybody did a great job, and I think it's a great event for all the guys to come back out and share a little fun and some excitement, and we're already looking forward to next year.
We ask each of the competitors to name who they think is the best race driver in all time, and Bobby responded by saying, Davey.
Allison's position in points fell over the next few weeks with a crash at Michigan and electrical problems at Daytona. He entered New Hampshire optimistic to rebound.
Yeah, certainly the face is a familiar one if you're a race car fan. Kind of a legend in race car circles already, and that, of course, Davey Allison. Number 8 in the point standings right now as we're about midway through. But, Davey, I know this is a favorite spot for you. I know you like coming to New Hampshire, not only here, but to some of the other tracks I know you've been around to and visited. I know last year you stopped by, you were up at Lee USA, so certainly this isn't foreign turf to you.
No, we've been up here. This is our 5th trip to New Hampshire, and we really enjoy it every time we come up here. The fans are great up here. People have really been super to us. And of course, this is a first-class racing facility right here at New Hampshire International Speedway, so we're really looking forward to the Winston Cup race here this weekend. And we've been running awful good on the flat tracks this year. Haven't been doing too good on the bank tracks, so maybe we can get that Texaco Hive on Thunderbird back right here where we are now in Victory Lane.
On the restart, Davey Allison will be on the point. Musgrave's going to try it. He's going to get it. Back on the lead lap now. Allison has to look left for Earnhardt. Finds him. Here comes Marlin for the lead. Look at all the momentum Davey Allison lost after that brush and slide with Earnhardt. We have caution on the racetrack.
It's a hub off of an axle. That's the hubcap that holds the axle in the rear end housing. It's got 4 little bitty Allen head bolts and it's come out of somebody's rear end.
So Davey Allison leads. Rusty Wallace down pit road. Rusty Wallace fast on pit road again. 17.1 seconds.
Boy, they continuously do that.
Davey Allison, 19.3.
You see the nose of that 28 up under Mark. Back in, jumped out under Mark a little bit right there.
Austin caught it. 1 to go. Last time around for Rusty Wallace, and this battle for second place.
Davey's going to swing out wide, try to cut the car back down to the bottom. There's Rusty coming off. He's checking out on him.
Here's second place. Davey's got one more shot here at turn 3 to take second place money.
He actually had a little bit better run on the white flag lap.
He did. Rusty's going to come off turn 4 to score his 26th career victory, tying him with Hall of Famer Fred Lorenzen. Mark Martin, by a car length, holds off Davey Allison 4 seconds.
Well, Davey standing here. Davey, great job today. You took a bite out there with prior to the last caution. It looked right. Rusty went back, did the same thing, and just a little better towards the end.
Well, our car was a little bit loose, and we put a half a roundabout in, and that really set the car up, you know, for the end of the race. We didn't need that last caution, but, you know, luck plays an important role in this game, and today was Rusty's lucky day, but we got to congratulate him because they ran a strong race to come from the back of the pack like they did to win it, and, you know, we had a good race, had a lot of fun out there racing today. Texaco Havoline race team did a great job. It was fun to lead a race for a change, and especially fun to finish on the lead lap. But I'll tell you, Randy, I've had some orders from home. I talked to Crystal last night on the phone, and she told me that if I don't tell her, hey, the next time on TV, I'm in trouble when I get back. So, hey, Krista, and Robbie, and Liz.
Okay, so we got the family out of the way. Davey, did you learn anything here today? First time here, you didn't really have a chance to practice that much. I asked Mark the same question. Anything that you do differently coming back up here next time?
Well, as odd as this sounds, I may bring a different race car. We kind of gambled on something this weekend. It sort of worked out and it sort of didn't in some ways, but we think we know what to come back with. Just wait till next year and come back and try it again.
Okay, we'll see you next week. Good luck.
Thanks.
Mike Joy?
Yeah, I think he knows and he's not telling.
I feel like I try to do the best I can to live my life right every day, and the things that I can control, I try to do the best I can at, and the things that I can't control, I just have to learn to accept them and to be able to go on and make the best out of them. And if that means that it's a life-threatening situation for me, then I hope I've done everything I can do right and done what I've been asked to do by the man upstairs, because it doesn't matter. When it's our time to go, we're going to go. And we can't change that.
Back in this country, a well-known American stock car racer was badly injured today in a helicopter accident. 32-year-old Davey Allison suffered severe head injuries when the helicopter that he was piloting crashed in the Speedway in Alabama. Veteran Red Farmer, another driver, the only passenger, also was hospitalized.
We were up there, my son and I were up there. David was testing his Bush car. We just happened to be in the garage there working, and somebody said there's a helicopter coming in. They said it's going to land, and I just looked over at David. We're in the garage. I said, probably Davey coming in. And I mean, Jerry, no sooner than no sooner than I got it out of my mouth, I heard it hit the ground. And, the only thing I could do was just round the corner full speed. Well, I go out there, and here's this mass of metal on the ground. And thing just destroyed, and the motor's running full speed. The engine's running full power. And I run around there, and I see somebody trying to get out of the bottom of the aircraft, and I couldn't even recognize. I knew who it was. It was Red Farmer. And so grabbed Red, just pulled him. I panicked, I didn't know what to do. And Red kept talking to me. I couldn't understand him. I got my ear down to him, and he said, how's Davey? How's Davey? And it kind of shook me back. I said, go back and try to get Davey out now. Go back over, and the helicopter's still just running full power. And everybody's saying, try to stay back, it's going to blow up. Well, got back in there, and the helpless thing I've ever felt, I couldn't get him out.
His primary injury, though, a closed diffuse head injury. Diagnosed by computerized brain scan, he spent 45 minutes in the operating room to have an evacuation of a subdural hematoma, a blood clot in the covering of the brain. Placed in neurosurgical intensive care, he remained unresponsive with very poor vital signs and low blood pressure until 11 p.m. last night, when signs began to improve. The family noticed a twitching of the eyelid, some initiation of respiration, breathing on his own, and a withdrawal of one foot to stimulation. Hopes were high. And then at 4 a.m., the bottom fell out.
Mr. Allison, 32 of Hueytown, Alabama, injured in a private helicopter crash yesterday at Talladega Superspeedway. Died this morning at Caraway Methodist Medical Center. He was pronounced dead at 7 a.m. by Dr. Evan Zeiger, Caraway neurosurgeon.
Within the millions of fans and friends around the world, Davey Allison's spirit will live forever. But that is just part of the Allison legacy. You see, Father Bobby and the family have agreed to allow Davey's organs to be transplanted, and as we speak, that is taking place. So for a young man who has given so much of himself, his final act is the ultimate gift, the gift of life. In this quiet little town just west of Birmingham, the shock has worn off and reality has set in. Everywhere you look, their thoughts are of Davey and the Allison family. This little community has served as home for what many believe is the first family of motorsports. Simply put, the Alabama gang. Bobby Allison, brother Donnie, friends Neil Bonnet and Red Farmer. One by one, they were each forced to walk away from a sport they loved so much. Although saddened, this community rebounded, primarily due to the rapid rise of Alabama's newest young star, Davey. But now, the hurt runs deep, and there are those who believe the wounds may never heal. But it's not just here. Since the accident, the hospital received calls from all 50 states and 6 foreign countries, as millions of fans and friends around the world wanted to share their grief with the Allison family and this small southern town.
Over 4,000 people attended Davey's wake, including the governor of Alabama, who ordered that all flags in the state be lowered to half-mast. The procession of cars that followed the hearse from the church to the cemetery stretched over 5 miles long. It was one of the largest moments of shared mourning the state of Alabama had ever witnessed. The only funeral that compared was when Crimson Tide football coach Bear Bryant died in 1983.
Everyone here, and I suspect you at home, come to this event with heavy hearts and misty eyes. And we're going to go racing. That's what this sport, that's what this community is all about. That's what Davey Allison's about. That's what Davey would have done, Neil.
Just a couple of nights ago, I sat down with Bobby Allison, and Bobby's the very person that told me, said, Neil, you make commitments throughout your life. When something like this happens, the only way to get it behind you is to fulfill those commitments and carry on. Ken, we must carry on. It's going to be tough, but I think that's what we have to do.
Dale Earnhardt has won. Rusty Wallace comes home second. Bill Elliott third in the most competitive automobile racing in the world. As the race came to conclusion, we saw Rusty Wallace carry a 28 flag down here for a moment, and he threw it over. It was a smaller flag than this, and he went back to the garage area. And one of the mechanics, Smith, from car number 3, leading this team in prayer to the memory of a fallen comrade. And this crowd, I don't see anyone leaving. All standing, all waving, some in prayer, as car number 3 remembers car number 28.
Yes. You know, all of us is in the memory of Davey. Was racing today. I'd run second to him in a minute if it'd bring him back. I mean, I'd do anything to bring him back. We're going to miss him a lot, miss Alan a lot, but we're going to miss Davey too.
Between grief and nothing, I will take grief. And it is that collective sense of mourning that unites the racing community here at Talladega Superspeedway.
And every history book on stock car racing will include Davey Allison, a top contender and a great sportsman. We loved you, Davey. You were our son, our brother, and our hero. And now I can almost hear Davey say, "That's enough. Get on with the race."
Davey still had one race left to run. Throughout his lifetime, Davey never won a series championship. Not the close ARCA battle in 1984, not the Cup title in 1992. He entered the 1993 IROC season finale as the point leader. Terry Labonte was picked to fill in for Davey, with any points he scored counting towards Davey's total.
Paul, first it was the number 7 that appeared on all the IROC cars in memory of departed NASCAR titleist Alan Kulwicki. And now it's a number 28. for the recently departed Davey Allison. And for the last time in motorsports history, Davey's name appears on the side of a race car here in the IROC finale.
Terry Labonte looking for someone to run with. He moves up and slides in behind Al Unser Sr. Still at the front of the field, it's Earnhardt. Baldwin in pursuit. So Terry Labonte now around Jack Baldwin and trying to come further forward in this field to secure a championship, both for himself and for Davey Allison.
If little Al, just off the screen to the right of the orange car, if he can be second, he has a shot at winning this title. It's that close. He must be second, though. If Labonte stays sixth, which is just where Labonte is now, we're looking at a race for the championship.
Al Unser Jr. drives for all he's worth to try to find room alongside Elliott, but he lost his momentum going into the corner. Now they turn for the stripe. The checkered flag is out. Jeff Brabham takes the win, followed by Elliott and Al Unser Jr. Terry Labonte, driving for Davey Allison, takes the IROC championship by 2.5 points. And so Davey Allison's name appears as a champion for the only time in his career 2 weeks after his death. Davey Allison, posthumously, is the IROC champion.
You know, I'm very glad that, Terry won the race for him today, and everyone wanted to win the championship, but deep down I don't think anyone wanted to be the one to do it.
Well, Terry Labonte, difficult circumstances, but you accomplished what you set out to do.
Well, I came here and I wanted to win the championship for Davey. I'd like to dedicate it to Davey, his family, and all his fans. I mean, this is for y'all. It was an honor to drive his car. I just wanted to keep Al Unser Jr. in sight. I looked at the points before the race. I kind of knew what I had to do. I wanted to stay out of trouble and just try to win the championship.
How emotional a moment is it for you?
Well, I don't know. Davey was a good friend of mine. His family I've known for a long time. I'm just honored to drive his car and glad to bring him the championship.
And that is how Davey Allison's career ended, a champion among champions. In the years that followed, he was named one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers. He was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2019. Dozens of throwback paint schemes have been raced in his memory. Children who grew up idolizing Davey now drive on the same tracks he once did. In the decades after his passing, Davey Allison has never left the racetrack. He will always remain one of the most respected men to sit behind the wheel of a race car.
I never compare myself to other people as far as trying to rate my ability versus theirs. And when it's all said and done, I'll let the other people do the rating.
If I could be remembered as a friendly person and a person who took time out for others around him, that would be more than enough to satisfy me.